All right, work session, let's get started on this. Camelot subdivision preliminary and final plat discussion. I think begin that with Shay, is that correct, Shay?
Yeah, let me just pull up the drawing really quick so everybody remembers what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Had an update right before I left, and then, of course,
Do you need the projector on?
it's actually on. I'll
Okay, all
open it
right,
up
yeah,
here.
the door's closed.
I was just gonna get this up, so you don't have to.
Yeah. You can put McKay to work with you when it's time.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this now. We'll just have to-
Bryce, will
Okay.
you kill the big set of lights?
The first
Thank you.
So it's firing up, here we go. So this, the Camelot subdivision is located again on Salem Hills Drive. A couple months ago, this was brought before City Council. This is a single lot subdivision, and it was brought before City Council because basically if we strictly adhere to our code, we're requiring them to develop full width street, full length of their frontage, which is places a undue burden on a single lot, and so we had talked with the church, and here I'll turn this around. Talked with David Church, and he suggested that basically we look at the frontage length of the lot and realizing there's some off-site improvement to the street in order to tie this in, and basically just require a full width street that's equivalent to taking that frontage width of the lot and considering There we go. Thanks. So, and then he also said you may need to extend that out, or whatever you need to do to make sure that you can deal with the public safety issues. For instance, fire truck being able to access their property. And so we had Seth go up there and look. There's actually a turnaround that had been put right there at the end of the pavement, close to the end of the pavement, on Salem Hills Drive. He went in and with his fire truck and drove around there and said, you know, if they want to keep that turnaround in place, that he's fine with that. It's basically right across from their property boundaries, so as far as backing the truck up, it's a very short distance to back it up, maybe 2 lengths of the truck. So he was okay with that. And so anyway, the final, just pull this up really fast, the final drawing then basically allows so basically they'll improve up just slightly beyond their driveway, and with full width street, and it cleans up that section of Salem Hills Drive that was half width up there on the top end, and then with this you received a copy of a draft of development agreement. Since this is a little different than what our code states, felt like we needed to put this into a development agreement, what these terms and conditions are, so that the city's got the justification behind it and everybody knows why this has been done this way. As other properties up there are developed in the future, then they would basically be required to tie on and complete this ultimately complete this road with the development of the other properties in the future.
So when the property to the east of that is developed, they will, under this development agreement, have to finish paving the road from.
Well, they're not signers to this development agreement, but what we'll do is we'll handle it the same way. So so you have the Yules on the same side, on the north side of the
Yeah.
street. And so at the time the Yules go to develop that property, then we would do the same thing with them. We would look at the frontage and basically require them to complete that frontage, unless they decide to develop multiple lots. As soon as we subdivide with multiple lots, then the story changes. And at that point, depending on what their design is, where their road to enter in for those multiple lots would be, then obviously they'd have to construct through that intersection with a full width street. So then, same thing on the other side here with, his name has just left me. Adamson, yes, Russ. I could remember Russ, I just can't remember the last name. Same thing there, is he comes in and puts a subdivision in on his side, then he'll need to complete that full section. And at that point, if he does that before the Yules do, then there'll be a reimbursement agreement drawn up so that as the Yules
Between those two parties?
develop their property, it can go that way. We'll cross that path when we get to it and talk with David Church and see which direction is the best.
Right now, it's between the city and the property owner.
Correct.
Because, I mean, the elders are finishing property not on their side of the street.
Yes.
So then, right when the person across the street, theirs is already gonna be done, then they have to reimburse the city when they want to build.
So
And that money will go to finishing like the rest of the elders, essentially.
yeah, so basically, and when he finishes across the street, he'll be required to, because he's going to have to put an intersection in and a street back in. He's going to have a hard time fronting lots on this street because it's just so steep.
Right.
There's no way he can get good access in there without digging out half the mountainside. So he'll have to go further down in, probably down, if you're familiar with that, there's a fire hydrant down towards the bottom of it there.
Just
And preliminary designs I've seen show them putting an intersection in roughly right there in the bend and going up from there, and then fronting lots off that, heading south. So yeah,
They will need to look at being able to have a turnaround in there too until it's completed and clear across.
Well, at
Right
the
now,
point-
you've got that turnaround. They've got the
yeah,
turnaround by
exactly.
their property.
And
If you're going
exactly,
further
so
east,
as that extends further, you're exactly right. Actually, anybody who builds an intersection in there is probably gonna have to tie in from both sides.
Yeah, but what we're doing here, this development, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Development agreement, that really just, that tidies up the elder, they don't have anything left.
Exactly.
We would have to deal with the city.
For them,
It now just
they
becomes the
they
Adams
complete
and
this,
Adams
and they
They're
don't,
good.
they're good. We've credited them for their improvements.
Okay.
Be done.
So one related question. Right now, there's a gate there keeping people from going through. They're gonna come in and they're gonna do this. Are we gonna move that gate to keep people from going in and doing?
Yeah,
Well,
it
we
shows.
don't
Past
have
the,
Yeah,
past their
right there.
property, or do you want it
Well,
just past the end of the road there?
Just
Yeah.
to cut off that access, because otherwise you're gonna become Little Sahara Junior access point.
We would prefer.
We already are.
Well, I know, but I mean even more so if we move it, because then there's the trails
More
and things
access.
that are.
No, we are moving the gate right there, and then this will be cut back,
That'll be
but
good.
we will do something to keep it so they can't.
Yeah,
We'll work with
Yeah.
Russ on the,
Yeah.
that'll be good.
From Park Road.
Yeah, I just
We
wanna make
don't
sure.
wanna lose that gate.
No.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the
I'd like to
same
see another
problem we had
gate
before.
in another section.
So it goes on another piece. Back to, I got two
No,
places.
it's not.
Okay.
That's not.
I'd like to see gates. So we have action tonight to take, to approve this, both preliminary and final plat approval, right? Along with the development agreement.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And so if we're doing the preliminary and final, water rights, that part's all been,
So once this is approved, then we'll get with them and move water in and appropriate water with that.
And
Correct.
have we discussed the costs already?
That's what I was gonna say, is that when did we do that tonight? It said it had to be in before our building permit, but I don't know when we discussed
I
that.
mean, we didn't,
So,
I just, might as well, I
Well,
think we
that's-
should just
and that's
discuss it
fine.
all. It's been discussing it.
I just wanted to know if you've already got water rights or if you're gonna come and,
No, when I called before, they said the city has them and we
Yes.
can get them from the
Okay.
city. In that letter I sent you guys, did you see that about the cost difference? We're doing just our frontage compared to doing this?
yeah, that was, you sent that about a week and a half ago.
About 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So, basically it's $25,000 more for us to do this than it would for us just to do our frontage. And so we're asking for us not to have to pay impact fees and water rights. I know when I talked to the attorney, he said that the impact fees, that's in your code, you guys can do that. But the water rights, we don't know because it didn't say in there whether you can or you can't. So I don't know about that.
Whichever way, I mean, it'd be nice to have it up front, so our upfront costs are kind of absorbed into this already, that we can offset that. But one way, however the city wants to credit it, it's fine. But
It may be taking money from one pocket and putting the money in another, so to speak, just right hand.
So,
What's the cost of
the cost that we got showed that there's $11,284 difference.
So that was in June when we didn't have all this figured out and it's longer and bigger than we expected. So
Okay.
did you get the updated one?
The updated one.
We did get, I know we got the updated one a couple of weeks ago, but this one had a date of August 8, 2017, and this is the one that came in our city council information.
Right. But she
And it
sent
had
us a
both sides
separate
along the
email.
property, half width along the property, and then both sides past the driveway. So the half width along the property came to a total of $81,967,
Yes.
and then both sides past the driveway came to $93,250.
and that's what they changed in this one.
Yeah, do you want to see the updated one?
You have it in electronic
Yeah.
format, but
Yeah.
That came through the email, didn't it?
Yeah, it
Came through the
should've.
email.
for now.
There was one that came through email, but what I'm saying, I thought this was an updated version.
I'm not sure why that was the August 8th one, because I don't think that's just recent, so.
No, when I looked at August 8th, when you sent over it.
I think I've
Yeah, see, this says June 15th,
I don't
2000.
That's when the bid came across.
I don't think
Like-
I've seen the newest numbers. I was under the same impression you were,
Okay.
so.
Not sure how we want to resolve that right now.
And what approximately is that water rights, the cost that we would be crediting there?
So, just a second, let me get a calculator out.
Okay.
And while he's looking that up, Nelson, I'll tell you, when I talked to the attorney, he said, when you implement those fees, yes, they have to go into specific categories, and then when you pull them out, you do have to keep them separate. But he says, that by not applying them, it goes across the board. It can be, you know, the water part, the road impact fees, it can be all of those, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be separated out for that.
Well, it allows us to maybe refresh or reset some of the monies that are in there. In other words, we apply it against older money, that becomes newer money.
Verify that.
So that would be included in the development agreement? Is that where we would make that stipulation of what we would do? Or when do we have to actually
I
approve
think
it?
that should be in the development agreement of whatever we're going to do.
Yeah.
That was one recommendation that I wanted to
Right.
make on the development agreement. And also Shay to put in the same language that we put in the last
And
development
I
agreement.
did put that in the paragraph 4.
Okay,
It's, I tweaked it slightly, but
Okay.
it's,
I'll go back and look.
So, and this is just rough, a rough number here. It may bounce
Yeah.
a
That's all.
couple hundred, one way or another, but it looks like it's 10,782 on the water.
So, okay. So, almost 11,000. Let's see, credit.
What's the total number on that spreadsheet, 25?
25,578. And can you guys tell us maybe where the difference came between those two numbers, the
Sure.
June and the August?
Yeah, so part of it is, the June and the August.
Yeah.
That was,
So what happened is they gave us a bid for the whole road, both sides, and that's the June, what's on there. But when we went down, we miscalculated the
length.
length of all that to it's like, well, you can see it on there, it says how many feet. And then the other thing was, isn't there another sewer manhole or something that we missed? There's some, anyway, and that's,
So this 25 is because if we were to just have the half the street or whatever it is all the way down the property line, property would be less.
Would be
That's right, so
440 feet.
right now.
And so there's 426 linear feet that's along the south side and 150 along the north side.
And one of the big costs is the sumps, because typically we would do one. If we just did our side of the street, you'd have one, drainage sump. In this case, there's two,
Right.
and they're pretty expensive.
So if we credit them for that additional funds to have that side of the road, basically those improvements made, where do we capture that back? The city doesn't, it's not the city's responsibility, right, to pay for these improvements, right? It's the landowners as they develop. So if we give them the
Well,
credit.
I'm going to go back again to what our city attorney has told us, that the way he looked at this was you take that half width for the full length of the property, but then if you need to extend that out a little bit in order to provide services for
Right.
public safety, so in other words, to create that full width street up to their driveway, then that's legitimate that's
Correct.
meets rough proportionality, which is basically the legal test that you've got to meet with this.
Correct,
And
understand.
we're not asking him to do any more than provide.
No, but at the end of the day.
And so I guess what I'm saying is I guess it's up to you to decide whether you feel like you need to do that or not.
No, but
Legally,
here's, so let
we
me try
haven't
to explain
required
again
them
what
to do
let me try to
anymore.
explain again, so what I'm kind of getting at, because I'm not sure. If they put this whole width road in, the sumps, everything that they've said that is gonna go in, and it's $25,000 more that it would cost them to do just the minimum that we would require normally, right? They're actually finishing the other side of the road for somebody else at the end of the day in some proportion.
Correct.
Because if you took the total cost of developing that road all the way from where it is now and extending it all the way past or up to the whole into their property, full width, right?
Mhm.
I would expect them to have to pay half of that,
Yes.
and right? And the other landowners would, on the other side, Adamson, right? He would have to pay the other half, right? But what we're saying is, because he's not developing yet, they're coming in early, they're actually paying $25,000 more than their half of the full road improvement,
Mhm.
right? So Russ, on the other side, right, he's getting a bargain if we don't collect $25,000 from him. It's not the city that has to come up with the $25,000 to do the development, right? It's the combination of Elders and Adamson that have to do it, right? So I sit here and I think to myself, okay, so to be fair, they shouldn't have to pay more than their half of the improvements. we said, well, we'd rather have you pull that back and do the full width and all the improvements there, but that's gonna cost them $25,000 more than the half that we really require, right? So how do we get back the $25,000 from Russ at any point in time? Can we do that?
Well,
If we credit them now, right?
We can't,
Do
but
you see what I'm trying to get at?
what
we have to
I,
track it. And that's the trick. We gotta remember that whenever that happens, that could be next month, 5 years, 20 years from now.
Right.
I mean, we have a 30-year offsite reimbursement in place, but as time has shown, I mean, you go back 8 years, the only person that was here, out of everybody in this room that was involved in this process, was Shay and I. That's
Yeah.
it. Everybody else was not part of this process.
Right.
So fast forward 8 years, where's it gonna be? Chances are, Royce will hopefully be here, and McKay, but, you know, and, sorry, I forgot your name in the back there.
Laura?
Laura. Hopefully you're still here. So the employees will be here, but we're not gonna be here. I mean, I look at this and I'm thinking, you know what? Wouldn't it be easier just to have them do their portion that they're responsible for and just forget the other part, and when Russ gets ready to develop, do his half? From a tracking, I mean, wouldn't it?
From a tracking, it would be
Tracking
a
might be-
a safety issue.
Yeah,
that
that
we're
we
looking
have
at.
to make them do that, right?
Well, I don't know that it frankly makes a bit of difference, because I've only got a half a road in front of my house, and I've been that way for,
No,
I mean,
well, half
geez,
plus a
19
little.
years. Well, yeah, because you live on the other
But
half
that
where there
doesn't mean
isn't.
that we should, that's
No.
not the standard though.
No.
Yeah,
That's
that,
not a
two terrible things don't make it good.
No, it doesn't, but
So what if we put that in the assessment sheet on Russ's property?
is there a way that we can?
Can we do that? I mean,
My understanding is that you have an assessment sheet with on each property, and that would be listed. I mean,
Does
we
it have to be-
need to tie some sort of a letter in the file showing what that
Has
what
anyone
that
talked to
amount
him? Is
is.
he willing to pay any of it now?
He's not prepared to do it.
I bet it's.
I know.
Sounds reasonable.
I just don't wanna do that without talking to him.
So I don't know
Put that
Then
in
with
that file.
then at that point in time that he develops, we can
So this assessment.
We can list
thing-
that as, because the critical issue here with, if we're going to do this reimbursement, which is fine, the critical issue is making sure that you can go back and you can track exactly what that number was, what that amount that
Yeah.
legally needs to be reimbursed. If you just come up with some sort of number based on the current costs at that time, you know,
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
I don't
So-
mind deferring the payment, the cost, I don't mind deferring that to a later date,
Yeah.
but I do mind just eating it,
Yeah.
Well, I say let's.
right?
let's-
Forgetting about it,
let's
say,
put-
oh, yeah, you got $25,000
Let's
credit.
put
and
together
the rest
a
never
letter,
gets
if this is approved and we determine what this amount is, let's put together a memo for file with it and put it on the assessment sheet on Russ's property and list it
Yeah,
on
I would be
on his
fine with
property.
that.
So,
So that
At
works
least so the
like,
residents aren't eating
it's
this.
kind of like a lien, but it's not a lien? Is
Yeah,
that
how
what
does
that
that
does?
work?
I mean,
Can we
is
just
it-
surprise Russ?
Well,
I'm just
see,
asking a question.
we need
That's what I'm
to,
wondering.
well, we need to reference the section of code on the reimbursements and reference that letter so that when they look in the future, they, you know, whoever's here can look at that. Because what we do is we look at the assessments on the property and see, for instance, somebody comes in with a building permit, I'll use that because that's a simple one. So when somebody comes in with a building permit, then the city looks at that assessment spreadsheet and looks at if there's any requirements that, you know, that came through the subdivision or, you know, something else. Some have unique statements in them, such as there may be, maybe they weren't required to pay all of the impact fees. Maybe there were certain impact fees that were waived as part of approval of the subdivision. That's listed in the assessment sheet so that at that point in time they can.
And can we do that
they can pay that.
unilaterally?
So
I mean, at the end of the day, we're not taking anything from them.
That's what I'm
right?
saying. That's a mechanism we have in the code that we can
Okay.
use.
I just want to make
So,
sure that it's
that's what
documented
I'm-
so that whenever
Yeah,
that
that's
time
good
is,
about
we've
that.
got a way
Yeah,
to
play back.
capture that.
And that's why I'm saying,
I
you know,
like,
let's,
frankly, I like deferring the impact fees a little bit, especially on the roads right now.
okay. And that's what I'm saying, let's back that up with a letter in the file and reference that letter also assessment sheets, so at the time that somebody has to deal with this in the future, they've got the number in front of them and they understand the history, you know, from the letter of what's occurring here.
So I just have a question in regards to the costs. I mean, asphalt costs change all the time, right? So I think the amount that we agree to needs to be based upon an actual bid, and then, I mean, if we say, if it's more or less than $2,000, right? Then either party just eats it either way, but if it's, or some number, if it's greater than that, then we need to reflect the actual, like, cost. I don't know, I think because,
I think it ought to be, you know, we've got enough figures right here, and it's gonna be installed, that pavement's installed, it isn't, and there's a bid for it, you know, for that installation. You know, I think that is.
no, but it says not a bid right on it,
Yeah, but I mean,
so.
It was a-
they had a.
Well, we could-
But
I have three
But-
different ones, and
but I
he's
don't
actually
think-
the cheapest out
If
of all of them.
we're putting this
Yeah, but
number in the file, we establish a figure based on what is, the offset is now,
Right,
I
but-
think is the
But the
fair
way
way to
that
do it.
offsite reimbursement works, correct me if I'm wrong, Shay, let's say 15 years down the road, they come in and they want to develop it, they pay us in 15 years from now dollars what it would cost per square foot to do it, to reimburse us, because we've lost our ability to invest that money during that time period.
Well,
As
yeah, but what if
opposed to
it's, what if
what-
it's
Well,
cheaper?
that's what
if
I'm
it's
saying,
cheaper?
you can't,
I don't think-
if you have something installed, and then over that period of time, then you go for the reimbursement, it has to be for the actual cost, of what the actual installation costs were.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't do it on whatever those future numbers
So our
are. I'm just
return on
curious,
that
on
is
this,
zero.
on this
Here, so
higher
you
cost
can-
estimate, what's the total?
So the higher costs, I went through it all. Mostly the higher costs are coming from the 10-inch sub-base, the 6-inch road base, and there's 3-inch asphalt. That's where the majority of the additional 15,000
Because of the
It's
square
based on
foot.
square footage.
Is
and
coming
that's where we
from-
messed up.
I mean, there's a few other things that are a little bit higher, but the majority of the cost is coming from that. Couple other costs are lower.
I mean, when I just run a rough number here on a square foot cost, I'm within 2,000 of this total, so that feels right to me.
Okay.
And for us, I think, for what it's worth, if you're close, you know, we're not worrying about pennies. I mean, if it's $1,000, $2,000 off, I don't care, really, I mean, that's not a big deal.
Well, why can't we just amend it with the actual?
Yeah, the actual cost of,
Well, we know,
We kind of have
at
to.
the end of the day, what
Based
the
on
actual
what she
cost
said.
came in.
Well,
and
it's based on
that's what
actual
we
cost.
know.
I only meant for the reimbursements, or
Yeah,
or
right.
the
Oh,
credits, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, for the credits, right? If we're gonna credit them for impact fees or water rights or however we're going to do this transaction, I'm just saying, we need to agree on how this number is coming about. If we're doing an actual number, or if we put in the contract, right, actual number or within,
Well,
right?
my
2,000
suggestion
either
is to
way.
use what's here, use
to
the
use that-
spreadsheet and use this number if that's the way you want to go.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, you know what, I mean, and if you put a number, right, if it's as long as it's within X amount of dollars of this, we just call it good,
Right,
either
and I
way
think
it
that's
falls.
what he's saying is that.
And if there's a big cost difference, right, if something happens, right, and it comes in a lot cheaper or a lot more expensive,
Credit either way.
you know what I mean, so either party's not
Okay,
gonna
so,
eat it, just
so tonight,
safety and-
during the, I want to make sure that you understand that tonight, we're going to have an action to approve this subdivision, right? Yea or nay? And we've got a development agreement written up. We're going to have to probably have that altered, right? So can we split that so that they know that, I mean, what are they going to come away with tonight
So-
if we don't have
so
a
let me-
full and complete development agreement?
Let me make a suggestion here. We've
Please
added
do.
paragraph 5 to the development agreement,
Okay?
and we reference the difference here, this
Yes.
$25,000.
Yes?
And we basically say the city will credit in the purchase of water through the city and impact fees up to this $25,578.17.
Up to,
And it's,
So we can make a motion tonight
that
to
way
approve
you
it
can make a
with that,
motion tonight, and
with that.
while
contingency.
you're discussing some other things, I'll try to write it down. So I can hear it. That makes
All right,
sense.
so, because I do want to move on.
Do we need to talk to Russ Adamson?
No,
No?
he's not gonna be doing
And
it.
it's, and at the end of the day,
I mean,
it's,
Well,
he's gonna
it's-
pay for it one way or the other.
yeah.
So,
he knows when he develops it, that he's.
We're doing this to meet the proportionality test.
Which I agree with, but I'm wondering, if it were me, I think I would want a phone call.
Well, I'm pretty sure he knows what's going on with regards to this, because he's been kind of following it.
okay, so let's move on. I'm gonna skip, down to, because of what's on our agenda in the regular council meeting, I want to talk about fencing code. We need to talk about number 4 and 5 before we get done, before 7 o'clock. If there's no discussion, we're great. But the fencing code went to planning commission took another look at it and said, nope, this is the way we
Sent
want
it
to
back.
go.
And the reason we sent
Sent
it
it
back is, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we have this safety issue down here. We've got other areas of the city, and this code would fix those items. And it's on par for what other cities have done for corner lots, frontages, that sort of thing. So that's why we sent it back.
So.
Okay,
that's
so
sent
there were
back.
no changes?
No changes.
No change.
Okay, because I read through it and I was going,
No
how is
changes.
this different? And
No
that was my
changes.
one question, because I didn't see any differences. But I liked it how it was last time,
We
so.
sent it back. If you guys want changes, make it part of your motion. That's kind of our thing.
Yep, that's where we are.
You wash your hands.
That's it, thank you and no thanks. So back to us. Back to you, not me. Let's make sure that's clear.
So that's where that went.
So I think our planning commission has spent lots of time on this. I think it does address the safety issues. We've already had a big discussion on this, so I don't know what else to say.
It's gonna pass regardless how I feel, so I guess it doesn't matter. Put it that
So
way.
are we ready to move on to animal code?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay,
Are you,
animals.
who threw it back? I was gone that meeting.
Oh, I was one of them.
Okay, because I've been to the planning
Because
commission
now I
meetings and
can't
we talk
have
about
a
it, but
fence to
not.
keep the deer out of my side yard. That's why. Unless I put a chain link fence, my wife won't let that happen, so. They'll just keep eating my vegetation. That's just how it's gonna be.
That's the way it's gonna be.
Unless you move.
So let's move on. Let's talk about animal code. We're gonna
Alright.
have our good friend, our planning commission chairman, is gonna
I'll
do a
stand up.
great presentation for us.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if Laura sent out the full codified version, which is, I don't know how many pages.
We have the 35 page.
So we got both.
What's
And then
listed is just the little simple one. So most of what's in the codified version is consequence in other areas of the code pertaining to this.
Yeah.
So I thought I would just go over the actual, I guess it's chapter 10. There's like 5 or 6 pages. Okay, so we were asked to, with the animal code, redo it, fix some stuff in it, that sort of thing. Make it less confusing, make it black and white, make it so that if 15 people were to read it, they would all come away with the same 15 opinions.
Hopefully.
Okay, that was our intent. We also looked at, tried to make it fair, we did a lot of research, and we also had a lot of public input, probably more than I guess I've ever experienced. But, so, moving on. So chapter 10, in chapter 5 of our code, so chapter 10 is based just on land use. Chapter 5 is verbatim, almost exactly like abuse of animals, that sort of thing. It's verbatim with Utah County Code. Okay, so this was not to cover abuse of animals, I guess enforcement, those sort of things, okay? This was just for land use, what's allowed, that sort of thing. So if we run through here, the intent, that mostly stayed the same. The purpose mostly stayed the same. We added some, not just residents or causing nuisances, but also damage to property and other animals. The existing animal uses, we actually kept that section. So if somebody has animal rights right now, they are using those, this code does not take away from them, okay? Unless they abandon those rights for a year, it's in here. Then, so I guess it'd be a non-conforming use, yes.
So my question to you would be, what is considered an abandonment? If I've got,
Not having it for 1 year or more.
Not having
no,
it-
no, but I mean, is it based on the number of animals, or just, like, for example, if I had,
If current code, say, allows you 4 horses on the property,
and I go down to 2, am I now capped out at 2 after a year? Or can I go back to 4 because I decide right now I don't want to
if
take
you
care of
abandon it for a year,
You've abandoned.
so
it
you
for
reduce
years.
that number, you pull them off completely, something like that. At the end of that year, if it's not been maintained, you'll lose it. If there is a difference between the old code and the new code. Does that make sense?
Which,
I guess the question of abandonment, is that reduction of numbers or is that complete removal of that species?
that was what I was trying to
It
say.
could read anything into that. So right now, if the current code allows you to do it, and you're doing it, now, if you're in non-conformance now, I mean, that doesn't count. But if, you know, I guess there are certain sections of town that allow horse rides. At one point, they've been rezoned. Those people have maintained that, they're good to go. Or if they abandon it for a year and say they're, you know, all of a sudden in R 20,000 where it used to be allowed livestock, then they would lose that.
So it's my understanding that abandonment is if you have no animals on your property for a year, you have abandoned those animal rights. As long as you're exercising some of your animal rights, you've never abandoned any of your animal rights.
So,
Is that other?
Yeah, that was,
It says if the non-conforming use is discontinued for 1 year or more,
I tried to find
or has
my,
been abandoned.
I had an email from David Church from last time. I tried to find that thing, couldn't find it. I know it's in my desk somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Because I had it laminated. Where he talked about how that's defined. I mean, as I've gone through this, I mean, I think overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. But I mean, when I go through the numbers here, try to apply the number of points, if I abandon my rights, what I have today and what I would have in 13 months from now would be day and night different.
Okay,
Because of the application of the number of points and how that all works out. So, anyways, I
So
just
don't
wondered how that would
abandon
apply.
your rights?
Huh?
Don't abandon your rights then?
Well, that's what, so he wants to know. Shay,
Right.
did you have a comment on
So,
the abandoning issue?
Typically, as the courts, I haven't seen case law specifically on animal issues, but on non-conforming uses, typically, if you have a non-conforming use, whatever is physically there is grandfathered in. Okay, so if somebody, for instance,
You can't come and say,
had
well, 4
horses-
years
had
ago, I had a
horses on there.
whole.
Yeah, so if somebody had 10 horses on there right now,
Yeah.
and that's, at the time the code was changed, that is what's grandfathered in. At the point that changes, in the case of a structure or something like that, at the point that changes, that whatever changes has to meet the new code. And so I would assume based on that, just looking at, like I say, I haven't put a specific case law with animals, but I would assume it follows that same line of reasoning, that it's not that you have all the rights that were in the previous code, it's that what you currently have, if it was legal in the previous code, you can continue to maintain that, and once that has changed, or in this case, has been abandoned, then you no longer have any rights under the previous code. All your rights are
Perfect.
based on the current code.
Yeah, so,
What is the planning commission's intent here?
well, this was.
As it pertains to this issue.
This was a section that we did not change, this was in the prior codes. Our intent was, if you have rights now that you are taking advantage of, we did not want to remove those rights, but I guess by changing the code, unless you're maintaining those, I mean, they won't be
So-
extended.
Yeah, so what I would like to do is, if there's any ambiguity, to take out as much of it as we can. So we may need to revise this section to make sure that it's clear as to what our intent is when it comes to
What-
abandonment
what
of
means
rights, right?
abandonment?
What does that mean?
We
'Cause
have that defined.
I certainly don't, that's completely unenforceable
So like if you had 10 horses
Right.
and I went down to 8
for a year.
for
Who's
a
gonna
year, do
track-
can I
You
only
can't
have
go
8?
back to 10,
I
or
can't
do you
go back
want
to
to go
10.
back to 10?
I don't know,
Now-
that's what I'm asking, what
Now,
is the
I mean,
law?
everybody's throwing out horse here, but I actually think the numbers show that horses actually should not have a reduction
Okay,
from the old code. So I'm thinking of more of lines of, there are some areas on the east part of town that actually have horses in their backyard, they're 3/4 of an acre, whatever. The new code may or may not allow that if they have been rezoned or gathered in a zone that doesn't allow livestock rights. If they maintain that, they're okay, but if they abandon it,
but like,
within
so
that zone, we're
William's
actually
saying if
gonna
they
take
keep
that
any animals, right? So like, what if I get rid of my horse, but I keep my dog? Or I get, what's another livestock animal that I could get?
Well, it says,
Mule.
it says keeping of any animal, okay? So if you have the animal,
You can continue to have
you
that.
can continue having that and that, whatever. So if your horse dies, you can replace it with a horse. I mean, that
But I
have to
can't
be,
get a mule
you know,
instead.
you can't, you know, Mr. Ed dies and we buy Larry the horse. I mean, you know, you still have one horse.
Yeah, no, I get that, I'm
So-
saying, what if they change,
Okay,
I'm
so-
just asking so we
So
know.
we don't, so that's what I said, I think this needs to be clarified.
It says keeping
This
of any
this brings up
animal
another one, because
which
then you're gonna have to be,
legally-
or like animal, and as soon as you do, I mean, it
I'm
becomes
sorry.
completely
No,
unenforceable,
this is a good
right?
statement here. I do want to point out, though, that if we change zoning, that's a whole different beast. You know, as soon as we change zoning in an area, and we're.
We got a whole other set of
okay,
grandfather
we don't- Exactly, and,
issues.
you know, we're
Yeah.
changing something from livestock to residential. We've got a whole nother set of issues to deal with. But I just want to point out, if you go through this point system and look at these numbers, now, I just look at them and I go, they're extremely generous.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have,
If you live
we
on a
have
small lot,
really,
if you live on a small lot, let me do some math, show you some math, okay? So I've got 6 chickens, that's 30 points.
Which chart are you looking at?
I am looking at,
Ten.
Do you have
18.
livestock rights or not?
no, this is not the
Okay.
livestock page, this is
Okay.
different. This one doesn't have the ostriches and emus,
Okay.
Okay.
otherwise that'd be challenge accepted.
6 chickens.
So 6 chickens, there's 30 points. 2 rabbits, there's 10 points. I'm not including my dogs because they're inside the house.
Oh, they're included.
No.
No, they're not indoor
they're not
pets.
in the-
They're inside the house, they're not included.
No, it
Another
says every
section.
lot may have
No,
2
no,
outdoor
no,
pets.
there's
Outdoor
another
pets,
section.
outdoor
There's another
pets.
section where.
You know, as
there's
many
five
indoors you
below it.
want, as
Indoor
many indoors you
household
want.
pets.
Keep going, keep
Okay.
going.
Okay.
So-
We're gonna run out of time, because I'm gonna cut it off, so
Okay,
get the point.
so 20 pigeons times 2, that's 40. That puts me at 80 points. I've got a 3rd-acre lot that gives me 33. I'm almost 3 times what the new limit would be.
What are you
And right
doing
now, I'm
with those
completely
animals?
compliant. I've got a 1/3 of an acre and I don't have a mansion on my property. I got lots of land. Not everybody
This is nonsense.
builds a house out to 5 feet from the property line. And
Okay,
that's
so-
my point.
Okay, so there may be a problem with numbers.
Right, and I
The
think,
numbers are good.
Okay, so let me just run through this.
Yeah, let's run through it,
All right?
because I want the high-level stuff
Okay,
taken
all
care of now,
right.
because
Some of the
we may have to have further
confusion,
discussion.
some of the confusion in the old code and some of the problems that were arising was the animal, or the hobby animal section.
Yep.
We were trying to put livestock in residential areas. We saw that as, let's pull that out. You got residential, or you've got lots that have livestock rights. Okay, so that's the big difference. Instead of having 3 categories, now we have just 2. Animal limitations, I wanted to
So
just.
can I just want to make one comment
Okay.
on that number 7, where you say not permitted elk, ridge pig, male goats, and mink.
Yes,
Why aren't we just saying, because this is another legal gotcha, I would rather just say, in anything else that's not specifically listed in this document. Period.
okay, in
because you've got
the,
another
in the
section where
codified
they are looser.
section, it talks about which chart goes to which actual zone. And
Right.
it actually says animals specifically are going to be included, you know, on that chart.
Right.
So we felt like we've already covered that. The pigs and meat were actually in the old code,
Right.
and there's actual health concerns, and that's why that was.
And I agree with that. I just don't like having the list, because it gets twisted in law. right? Every time we turn around, it gets twisted a lot because they'll say, well, hold it. This section tells me I can have, I don't know, a badger or whatever, right? Because it's not specifically,
If it's not
Excluded.
listed, you can't have it.
maybe I'm just being weird here, but I like to have no includes or anything like that.
So what you're saying is what's on the table, those are the only specifics
That's it.
that are listed.
That's
This, you just take that
That's all
out.
you
That's
can
it.
have.
Yep.
All right, you can,
Anything that's not listed in the specific section of code, no good.
okay,
See what I'm getting at? There's one more section that's gonna do the same
We're
thing.
good.
okay, all right, so moving on.
Other than that, I'm good.
We did the chart because in research, we're like 100 points per acre, that's easy math. You got a third of an acre, that's 33 points, blah, blah, blah. We've assigned animal numbers. Now, some of these numbers I got based on, some of these were based on the old code, trying to transfer some of those numbers over, but there's confusion there.
Yep.
I actually talked to one of the State Department of Husbandry, talked about square footage for some of the larger stuff. So that's how we calculated a lot of that. We added the city staff or law enforcement are the ones that deem nuisances, not a neighbor. And that's right at the bottom.
Where's that at? I missed that.
Well, if an indoor household pet arises, city staff, law enforcement shall determine the corrective action.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, so that way my neighbors call in and say, haul my neighbor's cat off. Okay, animal calculations don't include, new litters, that sort of thing. There was a lot of stuff in the chicken coop and whatnot that basically, specified living areas. But when it came down to it, basically, just living areas are supposed to be closer to your own residence than a neighboring structure. The chicken bird thing, we added some species, but a lot of that stayed the same. We did pull some stuff out that was repetitive. Okay? Livestock
Can I ask
animals.
a quick question on that neighbor question? Because this applies to me and maybe some other people. If you have your 1.3 acres like I have, and I have a chicken coop, not right next to my house, but it's 200 feet from my home, and 5 years from now, development comes to the north of me, and they build 10, 20 feet from their lot line, is the city gonna come to me and say, you gotta move your chicken coop closer to your house than the new neighbors?
They're not.
Should be
Well,
grandfathered.
it would,
I think maybe you need to say how many feet off
As long
your
as the
property
uses are
line. Because we have that issue now on our new property, and yes, we're building 100 feet off our property line, but it still smells horrible on our property line, and that's not right.
I agree.
It should be just off the property line. How, far off, and that would fix that problem too, because if they're that, that's
If
the
I'm
property
10 feet
line.
from my property line,
Or whatever, you know what I mean?
If you're closer to them than your own, or
Well,
not necessarily on that big of a lot.
But see, when you've got
Also
the big
the-
lot,
Maybe closer to your property line, to your
But if
house
you're
and
in
your
their
property
business
line.
with your animals, right? You know I hate animals, so like, I'm always gonna vote against them.
I think a setback would be more reasonable for people. Otherwise, you limit our ability to use the acreage we have.
Well, there are setbacks on every piece of property for structure.
10 feet.
It varies.
and it,
Depends
but,
on-
That's a
and
permanent
this,
structure, not a chicken coop.
but no, this said that the coops and stuff could not be in setbacks.
Yeah, you can't
When I
have them
read
in the
through it,
setbacks.
You can't have it
You
in the
can't actually have
setbacks,
any
in here.
animal, part of any animal habitat.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so,
like if you left it and then they built and it's a problem,
yeah,
then
it
you
can't
move
be on
it, right?
setback or the easement.
okay, so,
Yes and no. I mean, I can't go from a 1.3 acre lot to a quarter acre lot just because I get surrounded by people that build 10 feet from their property line. That's not right or fair to me.
Well, then what you do is you do what the guy in Salem did, you put a big sign that says, this is a working dairy operation, you throw it up the minute they start selling lots, and
I've already thought of that, but I don't want to be a jerk in the neighborhood, but I want people to respect the rights I paid for it.
sure, right. And I agree with you.
okay, so there's a couple issues that I just had regarding this. First was the existing animal uses grandfathering people in, right? And I thought, how do we know who's grandfathered in, who's not, what existing property rights were there, when it changes? I mean, it just becomes an absolute huge mess. Huge mess. So if we're gonna grandfather in, I think we need to have something where we send something out to every city member, every household in the city, and they have to send in their application with their grandfathered exceptions.
Well,
I mean, because how else do you keep track of it? In 5 years down the road,
they've already got
Right.
permits. On the chickens, you've got permits. If they've got a permit, they're grandfathered in. If they don't have their permit in by now, sorry, That ship sailed.
I agree.
No
I don't want the
tolerance.
staff having to go through all
Well,
that.
no,
Yeah.
because it says that it was legal. So if they never went through the process to get their chickens, then it's not grandfathered in
No.
because it was never legal.
And they're subject to the new
Right.
code, and that's how it
Okay,
Right,
so-
but there's
so
other
moving
issues,
on.
right? Like if his
Well, on
chicken
that
coop, when
caveat,
somebody comes and builds, so he
Mr.
can come in
Abbott,
and
I
say,
have animal rights, and so I never had to apply for a chicken permit.
Right.
So.
But,
if I
but
would
you're
be-
in an area that's zoned for it where,
Right, I just wanted to make sure that
No.
there wasn't,
right, but if he wants, right now, he has more animal rights on his property than he will have after this code is passed. So,
Will you? Not necessarily, right?
well,
Well, you could.
it depends.
as I sell off land, at my 12 acres, no, I don't. But if I get whittled down to my 1.3, then yes, I would exceed my capacity to maintain. And I appreciate, I can't go from 12 to 1.3 and expect to keep everything I had before.
Sure.
I understand that.
But what I'm saying is, how are we going to like enforce this or discuss grandfathering in? Because I think that's a huge issue.
It is.
And I think we need to have a discussion about that.
But
Because,
if you have a permit, you're good to go already,
How did you
Yeah.
deal with it before?
right?
I mean, this code's been changed.
That's part of the
And
problem.
we didn't change that paragraph, so
No,
how
no,
did you deal with it before?
and this is not like on planning commission at all,
Yeah.
right? This is not, we're just looking at changing the code, and I was just saying, I think we need to have this discussion, because anytime we talk about changing codes and grandfathering in, this is the issue that we have.
Okay, so keep going. I want to get
Okay.
through your part, so
Yes.
let Jared
Okay,
finish.
so-
Okay, I'll let you finish.
When we send this over to David
And we won't
Church,
take action tonight, but we'll continue the discussion.
when we sent this over to David Church, we actually had he had good things to say. He did suggest that we remove all conditional uses, I mean, period, not
Yeah.
just this. He's all for that, so we actually removed that.
Yeah.
So, chickens and that would be, if this passes, you'd be extending rights within the limits of what this shows, that sort of thing. And then moving on down, you got definitions and that. And for the record, I wanted to just have a one paragraph that says, as long as you're not making a nuisance, have at it. That was where I was sitting. Everybody else said, no, we need to have more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, that's completely unfortunate.
and there's a lot of what ifs, and you guys can now deal with that.
I get the
Okay.
feeling that we have more discussion to have on this.
yes.
Probably no reason to take action tonight, right?
Yeah.
But if we don't take action, and there's some modification to be made, it's incumbent upon you to make sure that the planning commission gets clear direction on any changes that you would like them to make, or you can say, we'll take it over from here, and we'll finish it. That's your choice,
Okay, well, I just have one recommendation,
okay?
and then there's just in the,
You got 5 minutes.
okay, in the table, it probably, the antiquate needs to be changed to adequate. I'm sure that's what that was
Oh,
supposed to
I
be.
thought we already changed
But, but then, here's my recommendation. We allow pets, indoor pets different than outdoor pets, okay? But the problem we're gonna run into is cats and dogs, whether they're considered indoor or outdoor. So I think if the animal is listed in the table, it is considered an outdoor pet and should count towards the total points.
No, I don't think so.
Because if it's not listed in the out,
You cannot
the
tell
table-
people what they can have in their own home. Like, if I want 40 cats in my house, I have the right to have 40 cats. And if they sleep in the house and they eat in the house, they're indoor.
but
Because we had this
you're
whole
telling me
argument
your
with the
cats
planning commission.
never
Poop
go
in the house,
outside?
I'm good.
In a litter.
Right? They never go outside, your dog never goes
Where they spend
outside?
the majority of their time. That's how
There's a
we fought all
definition,
this
if you
out.
want to modify the definition.
But I don't
This
think
is
you
the
try to
best.
go in people's homes and tell them what they can have. I think that's a.
Well, I think
I just,
cats,
I think
cats could be
cats,
removed. Because, I mean, let's be real about it. Nobody keeps the cats in their house. They're gonna go out from time to time.
that take them to keep their cats.
But if you take those out, they're not gonna have a kennel like you would if you have an outdoor dog. I mean, like your neighbors that have the huskies. They've got a facility with pens, and they're outdoor dogs, they're not living in the house. I think that's when it does need to be under this, when you get, I mean, I hate to put this, man, I don't wanna count my wife's dogs in my calculations. They stay in the house.
Well, that's a
All right.
you don't have the right.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, I
Let's-
think you're gonna have a huge enforcement problem with the neighbors saying, they have more animals than they're allowed on their lot.
You're right, and then we go in and look, and are they inside or outside?
And then they say they're all indoor pets.
If they're not sleeping indoors and they're not.
And the neighbor
sleeping,
says-
Then they're not indoor.
Well,
The neighbor says, they leave them outside for 12 hours a day, barking all day at my kids. And they say, but they're an indoor pet, they don't count. This is the issue we're gonna have though. I'm just saying, we need to have a discussion on this because
We did have this
cats
discussion
and dogs are.
for hours. We already had this,
So it
and we
says-
decided to.
It's whole source of water, food, and sleeping area inside living quarters at the owner's residence. So if the dog's outside, problem is, what does that mean, right? It's like, if the dog's outside more than 2 hours a day, does that mean he
No, but if it
fully not
sleeps
inside?
outside every night, and it's outside most of the day, it's an outdoor dog, right?
But I mean, cause in here it says indoor household pets not listed.
Okay,
So I think indoor
here's where
pets
we're,
that are listed should be counted towards.
here's where I wanna go on this.
So.
So there needs to be some refinement. You have some ideas, you have some ideas. Dale hasn't said anything, which is surprising.
I agree with this, but I
We
was
need
also
to,
with
if you
planning
have
commission
issues,
doing all
then I
this.
think, I'd like you to get them to the planning commission. Now, we all have to agree on one thing, that we're gonna have some parts of this that we may not agree with. And we have to come to some kind of consensus here, or you have the option to vote absolutely no, right? And see where it lies, right? But I just listened to the discussion, and it's gonna have to be one where you're gonna have to take the time to consider the other person's thoughts and ideas, and if you can address it and work towards that, that's great. I'm not saying you can't vote no or yes or anything. Does that make sense? Because there's a lot of opinion. There's a lot of
No,
opinion.
there
I mean,
isn't. I mean, maybe we
there's a
need
lot
to
of
change the
opinions.
definitions or change,
So-
you know what I mean, but.
So Jared, we're gonna,
I'm gonna add one more thing.
yeah, sure.
When we had probably one official public comment, period,
Yeah,
and probably several unofficial. None of those turned adversarial or whatever. I think they were all productive.
good.
So I think this is a move in the right direction, at least in my opinion.
The code?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so, I mean, from a public standpoint, I was expecting one of those meetings to just turn crazy, and it didn't.
Good.
It does actually turn out to be pretty
That's
productive.
good news.
And
I'm liking it
and a lot
because
of that
there's a lot of
input
enforcement
went right into
improvements.
this, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of enforcement improvements, which is really great for, the only thing I get to do is enforce animal rights as the mayor, so.
All right.
Okay.
And cut ribbons and kiss babies,
You gonna do that?
poor babies. All right, we're gonna take a 3-minute break, be back here at 7 o'clock, and we're gonna start our regular council session.
whenever we get leave, this week, that's right. Now
Yeah, we're trying to get it. So and then as far as getting it registered with the county.
Right.
The city does that.
Because what you do is you do this house, and actually,
no animal rights.
You can't use
It's still this harming this house.
So what I need to do is, that's my suggestion was to match
Maybe we'll do 3.
You're like, where's the house?
Six and a half hours.
So we get that with our house.
That way, hopefully you give me all that. Once I give you
Order in the court, Where's Sherry when I need her?
Thank you.
Where is she when I need her? All right, we're gonna go clear up to number 2, Shay, if you want to start on that one for us. Number 2 in the work session. We didn't get very far.
Just curious, how easy is that to angle up? Because a
Well,
lot of
get
it is
possible.
down low.
It gets on the van.
Okay. chairs and I have to.
For some reason, we talk to each other again.
There's like, the change plans, the river, and the stormwater.
Kill lights, too.
Yeah, kill the big ones. Thank you. We need to have some focus on it, I guess.
I was gonna say, it's not just me.
We gotta,
Really, guys?
Oh, wait, it's in
Why
the.
there was areas.
Take my glasses off. It's
Oh, there it goes.
The bones on the side of the door or something. Goes now.
Okay. All right, so this is the Shedhorn subdivision is 3 parcels. Lot 1, which is on the lower left-hand side, is an existing home. And basically, it's combining 3 parcels and creating 2 buildable lots out of those parcels. Lot 2, so this is on the corner of Lakeview and Canyon View Drive. And I believe we actually had some discussion on this one also a month or 2 ago, so this shouldn't be totally brand new to you. The parcels, the 2 lots proposed meet the zoning requirements. There are a few adjustments that needed to be made with this, and I haven't seen anything back yet. I don't think the city's received anything based on those drawings that I provided you in the planning commission meeting with the notes, but there were just some minor issues with this. So a couple of improvements beyond the lot, just to let you know, is on Canyon View Drive. We have trail shown on the truss plan for there, so the pavement will be brought back to the, basically brought back to the, not to the property line, but the additional width's going to be added on there for trail, so it matches what we've done lower. And then we had an engineer look at this for storm drainage, and the engineer recommended that along Lakeview Drive, that basically that there's a channel created in front of the lot, just a more defined depression. And so that also needs to be called out and shown on this, to be able to make sure that the water moves.
natural materials, right?
Yeah.
So I had a question about that, because lot 1 already has the house on it, so we're asking them to put in additional things on Lakeview Drive in front of their house when they split this into 2 lots.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and it's just, it's really just a matter of grading. May need to
Right.
bring in a little bit of, or may want to bring in a little bit of rock to, but just basically grading that in to tie in. And then as far as the storm drainage, from the storm drainage report, basically the extension of the pavement out, there again, there would be a natural swell at the end of the pavement.
So let me ask you on Lakeview then. You're not intending the water to, is it just to be dissipated off the side of the road then? Is that the
Yes.
plan? There's
Yeah,
not any,
there's not,
we're not,
based on,
no
based
sumps
on
on
the,
that Lakeview or anything like that?
yeah,
right?
based on the engineer's calculations on the storm drainage on Lakeview, we're not carrying much water at all.
Well, let me tell you.
Well,
I was gonna
on the
say,
south side of Lakeview carries quite a bit of water.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
crosses the street kind of down in here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
but-
passes right
it's
from
not here, but on the
Chantias, it
north
goes
side,
through
there's-
Chantias and
there's nipples
Joneses,
over-
and then
Yeah,
across.
yeah.
over Tunnels. No,
Yeah.
Well, they get it there too.
Tunnels get it really bad there.
Yeah.
So what I want to make sure is that we're not aggravating the
This
situation
doesn't,
there.
this doesn't add to the.
Just making sure.
And I'm making an assumption here, because I'm not the one who did the calculation on this. So what I'm telling you right now is just my assumption, but my guess is when he looked at this, because Lakeview is relatively flat, that as he looked at this, he found that the crown of the road basically was the natural dividing line. And yes, you have water coming down the street from above that wraps around
Yes,
and flows on that other side. But
yes.
if it doesn't
And it
cross that,
crosses
It crosses in front of Ken Tuttle's house.
in front of Tuttle's.
Yeah, yeah, it goes-
And I know he has bad problems.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right
if
there.
it,
It's
if
on
it
the other side of
doesn't,
the
if it
street.
doesn't cross, or we don't have a crossing here at this intersection, or doesn't cross over that,
Okay.
then his calculations don't
That's
take that
fine.
into account, because he's just trying to protect.
That's fine, and there's no gutter along there anywhere,
Yeah,
so we
no,
can't, we
exactly.
cannot move the water down off the
No,
property.
and that was one thing, looking at this too, we don't, where there isn't any gutter any further down, we wouldn't want to put gutter right here, because basically
Correct.
what that does is then, instead of
Correct.
absorbing, letting any of that water percolate down, then it pushes it all
Yeah.
to some poor soul who doesn't have gutter, and,
Right.
and they get flooded out,
Don't do
so,
that. It all has to be absorbed off the side of the road onto this property.
exactly,
Okay,
so.
so that's Lakeview. So tell me about
Okay.
Salem, tell me about Canyon.
So then Canyon View is kind of a similar situation. Here again, I'm making the assumption that based off his calculations, that he found that, there was a certain flow that was coming over, but again, it's that crown of Canyon View kind of acts as a dividing line there. And so basically, in that case, there's a certain amount that you allow to run down through. You're going down a hill, it's gonna continue on as it always has, just be cleaning up the swell and directing it, and keeping it in there's kind of a drainage ditch that's naturally been created there. It's only, say, 6 inches deep. It's been cut all along the side of the street, down past the neighbors there, making sure it was directed into that and not directed into the neighbors' yards.
Right,
So
so he's
that it
gonna
can-
bring the trail
so that it
into that,
can
right? He's
carry
gonna
on.
basically put a trail
Correct.
area there. So
Correct.
that drainage is gonna change
Correct, so it'll just have to,
And-
it'll have
and be
to
aggravated a
directed
little
to-
bit
yes,
because of the surface of the trail,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So where's all that
so
water
that's
gonna land
calculated.
now? Where's that water? going?
Again, like I said, it'll be directed back into the drainage that's,
6 inch
The-
swell.
that natural, I'm calling it natural because it was created by erosion off the side of the road. It
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
anybody cutting it in.
Right.
But it's there and it carries the water around the property instead of spreading it out through the property, so
So,
it'll be directed back into that. That's,
okay, so just so I can understand this, because right now we have the road, the water that comes just runs along the side of the property. It's because it's all filled, it's mostly absorbed into that property. But
yeah,
as soon as we put the trail in, we've got that much more pavement. What I think the concern is, we don't want that water to just go down the pavement now. It's gonna cross the road and go right into the landowner across the road into their property. So
so
I think when you
it'll
make
still
that
come off
there's
the
a
side
slope
because it'll
coming
still be
from
sloped
the
off the
road
side,
to the
yes.
trail, and then so the water's
Yeah.
still gonna come into the property.
Yeah, exactly. It'll
Can
be
be
just like we
absorbed.
did with the trail below. It basically continues on well, it's supposed to. There's some there that probably doesn't, but basically you would continue on that same cross slope of the street, carrying it off, so it should run off. I mean, it's in a north, how do I say this, a northwest facing as water flows down that street, because you have the hill that's going down, but then you also
It's left,
canted it
yeah.
off to the side, so it'll all travel off to the side, and so you'll still get that same percolation through the swell that will be along there.
Okay, so are we
So-
requiring like a French drain or something along there to help absorb that, or what? I mean,
Pretty sensitive to aggravating water issues, right?
No, I understand.
Down this area.
I
and this
understand.
area up here has a lot of water issues. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
the runoff up there in the springtime is incredible. I mean, when 11200 gets 1 inch of snow, this area of Elk Ridge gets a foot of snow.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's a very huge water difference, and so when that water warms up, man, I mean, my kids put on their boots and they go out and stomp in a foot. 1-foot huge puddles up there all the time, rivers, and that's why I have these questions too, because I kind of live in this area and I see the huge amount of water that comes off.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that it's adequately taken care of.
So.
Where does this water, it drains down to Jolly's and
Yeah,
then,
there's minimum water.
where does it cross at? Or I rarely see that water
Jolly's
cross.
driveway's right here.
Right.
There's seldom much water here at all, and almost none here too.
Right.
The big drainage problems are down Canyon View and down Hillside Drive.
Yeah, there's not a lot there. All I'm
Yeah,
saying
there's
is I
not.
just wanted to make sure the slope, that when it comes, we just don't push it down and
Yeah,
across
that
the
you're-
street.
that
That's,
Right.
In
that's
fact,
all.
That's all I'm asking.
I never even see
I don't-
running water.
I
I
don't
never
want
even
Brad to
see
be
running
responsible
water
for any other water.
here
but
or there. but-
we're gonna put 10 feet of pavement in besides what's there now, and that's gonna.
Well, and here again, all I can do is fall back on their engineer. They're the ones that are designing this and taking the responsibility for stamping it.
Well,
He's-
agreed, except we
he's-
get the.
No, I know, and I will discuss it more with them, just to ask them when they turn in their revised design showing that. These drawings didn't show it, that's why I got a storm drainage report, and,
Because when it does.
but it
come
didn't
across,
change anything on the drawings.
On the current
It's just
plat,
recommendations.
the current plat, I think, shows
Cuts across it. I've
the
seen it.
indent.
Advances, I don't know.
So, but anyway, so we'll discuss that with them and just make sure that they,
If you could see in the road where it's.
Shay, couldn't you even dig that down, that indent?
And that was my concern.
You could
This
kind
is
of come
all
in and dig that down and fill it
developed,
with
we're gonna
rock, so it
stem
has
Yeah,
a
you
little
could-
bit more
yeah.
good,
And more
more
gravel.
drop off into it,
And that's
instead
why I
of
just wanna
just
make sure
rock
we
on
weren't, that's what I'm
surface.
saying.
Kind of dig it out, create like the
yeah,
whole
we
thing
could,
is
we
kind
could
of.
have them. we
I'm
could
more
have
worried
them-
about if there's flow in that drainage, right? Any kind, that we aggravate anything
Yeah,
that we've
well, and
already got.
that's why it's critical that it gets turned back out into that little natural ditch that's right off the edge of the pavement.
That doesn't go
It's gonna
anywhere.
get down there.
Across the road, right? We don't have any, that area sucks for water management, water storm drain, right? It just does, right? That's just the way it is. And so I think we're just sensitive. Let's make sure that we do our best due diligence, that we're not aggravating that situation with additional hard surfaces that we're putting in.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I
Plus the
agree
addition
with
of the
you.
driveway's gonna come out there as well, right? So
Yeah.
we're gonna have additional hard surface that's gonna be resulting from this development.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be responsible for anything that he's not responsible. Got a lot of problems, you don't have to fix all of the Canyon View water problems, yeah, but let's not make it worse,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, like I say,
personally,
when we
council,
get
when we
the,
get to the approval stage, we need to,
yeah, when we get the revised
Really
drawings,
watch that.
I'll look specifically at that and see how they've addressed that.
okay,
So, other than that, there's really not anything else with this. It's
pretty
just
straightforward.
needs to add a couple of water and sewer connection
Yeah,
onto our existing lines, and that's basically it.
So I have kind of a related question. When this was approved years ago, you were tied in with the Jollies and there was a split there and this wasn't, things didn't get recorded, things didn't happen the way they should have, right? How does what we're doing here affect that, or does it affect it at all? I mean, basically, does it make their subdivision null and void completely?
No, so this only, but that is the reason that we had to go with the plat on this. And you couldn't just do this by
Just doing a
deed,
lot split or something?
because you have an underlying plat. That underlying plat basically was modified, but it wasn't modified through an amended plat. It went through some sort of approval process that never finalized anything, because there was nothing recorded, other than we have deeds showing this transfer of parcels. So this plat affects these 3 underlying parcels.
Okay, so
It doesn't affect anything else.
it doesn't
cleans
affect the
that
other
up.
2 that were originally part of the overall 5?
Yeah, exactly, and this kind of goes back, I mean, we've got these problems all over in the Salem Hills subdivisions, and there was a certain period of time where several people split lots, and for some reason, some of them were done correctly and were recorded, and others weren't. But they all occurred within the same 4 to 6 year time frame. And one of the things that we're looking at right now is, in fact, we've got just below Brittany there, we've got that the one where they just cut the one lot in half, and we've got two smaller lots there that now don't meet our code. I don't know if they did at the time, I haven't researched that, but at least now they don't meet the code for frontage. We're looking right now at trying to figure out which lots those are. The city's been reviewing that and pulling those out. And we're gonna see if we can look at it and see if we can just address all these in a resolution somehow. And if they're lots that can meet the code, that we can go ahead and approve them as legal zoning lots or legal lots of record, and try to clean up a lot of this so that in the future we don't have to have each one of them come through with separate plats. And
So, Shay, I have a question. You keep referring to 3 parcels, but we have 2 lots. Was this
Correct.
originally 3 parcels? 2
yeah,
lots?
so this was originally 3 parcels. So basically there were two rectangles in the area that's lot 1, except for projected.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was
Then
that
we had
small
that one.
piece to the north.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me, I'm pretty dense, so on this request for no curb and gutter as we go down this path, which we all agree that it doesn't make any sense to put curb and gutter in on this spot, right? But eventually we're gonna, at some point in time, we're gonna, right? Do we not do any kind of collection of those monies and hold on to it? Or how does the city not encumber become obligated to pay for the curb and gutter that we would normally require to put in?
So
Did I ask a good question?
it is a good question.
I mean,
So let me throw out one example. I grew up in a community that didn't have curb and gutter, and they went in later on and decided to put it throughout the city. And at the time that they decided to do that, they basically held public hearings and said, okay, we're going to be charging a fee to all the homeowners in the area that was affected.
some kind of SID or something?
And I guess now that's what it would be. Back then, it didn't have to be
Right.
set up in that way, but I guess now that's what you would do. And so then you charge that fee to everybody, and you can basically assess that based off of a frontage, and you've gotten some early budget numbers to be able to work off of. And then you assess that off the frontage, and so then they're given a period of time to pay it. You may plan that a year out or something like that.
Right.
It just depends on what the amounts are. You may, in that case, they actually came around and said, okay, if you can't afford to pay for it up front, we'll continue to assess this fee for X number of years. So essentially giving them a no-interest loan for that amount.
Right.
So that's
a way.
That's one way to handle it. I think where it would get a little bit tough is if you go in on these onesie-twosies with the few lots that come in here, and you say, okay, we're going to collect the money for those, and then here again, the idea of 8 years down the road, none of us are here, we've got different people here, and then they're trying to go through the documentation and figure out, okay, who paid for it, who didn't. It's almost
anywhere
easier
else
to
in the
do it
city?
in.
Have we've not set this precedent anywhere, I mean,
The only,
that precedent.
well, not in that sense, but like on Fremont, when they came in and they did it
Right,
there,
right.
some people chose to pay, and we worked it out, and there were a few that chose not to, and liens were put on the property, and then when those properties were sold, the city was reimbursed.
And that's another option too, is to go in and.
But, I think really when it comes right down to it, this will be a challenge somebody's gonna get to address in the future, in the areas where we don't
It
have.
will be. Potentially,
And,
we will have to address
oh,
this.
it's gonna have to be.
The EPA is going to force us into addressing this issue.
So
Yeah,
what's-
I know we got 3 years.
Well,
but we're gonna have
and
to
the
address
tough part is
that.
too, is those costs, I mean, we look at it and go, okay, curb and gutter, but there's gonna be sumps tied to,
Oh, yeah.
tied
You
to
got
all of
sumps,
that.
you
And
got
there's
additional
gonna be
asphalt.
places where
It's
you're gonna
not
have to
cheap.
run
It's gonna be
storm drain line under streets to make it work. And so really, to be able to fairly assess that to everybody, I mean, if you were to assess that to this subdivision right now, you'd be, okay, well, here's a rough curb and gutter cost, so we're gonna take that money, but then that wouldn't take into account the additional costs that you may have in basins, that you may have to, somebody's gonna have to engineer all that and figure out whether you can do it all with sumps, or whether you're gonna need to run storm drain lines somewhere and purchase an for basin or something.
So is that the issue of why we would not want to have the curb and gutter just put in now, because we may have to put in sumps
They-
and other additional lines later on?
So the problem with putting the curb and gutter in right now is, right now you're receiving some benefit from percolation with the water. And so basically, you've created a situation where you may have, say we have an inch of water that comes down in a rainstorm, and say in front of this lot, a quarter inch of that or a half inch of that absorbs into the ground. And then the other half inch goes into the existing channels that have been created over time and flows on down. And yes, we have management problems, but, we can address each one of those problems separately. The problem is if you put curb and gutter just around those two lots, now you've got that whole inch of water instead of half of it or 3/4 of it going in. And so you end up actually creating downstream a larger flooding problem by doing that. If you're gonna put curb and gutter in here, you need to take it on, and you need to engineer it to where you drop it all into sumps or into some other system.
So, this is our first look. I'm holding true to my commitment to the town council that we won't take action on it, but the anticipated action will come up next time we meet. So, if you have any questions.
We'll have revised drawings by then.
Yeah,
Sure,
right. We'll
yes.
have a revised drawing by then, or it's not gonna happen then,
Yeah,
so.
so.
Just be prepared for that to show up on the next agenda, okay? So if you have any questions, get with Royce and we'll connect with Shay and all that. Don't call Shay directly.
What?
Because he's too expensive.
Now filter it through, Royce.
We'll layer it on when we get it down here or something, so, or whatever we need to do. But all right, great. Let's go on to the next topic. Let's talk about our wonderful sewer rates. So we got the letter from Payson. An increase from $38.93 to $39.90, a 2.5% increase in their fee per connection. And I also want to remind you, friendly council folks, that when we did our last audit, that the sewer's operating funds were just above zero, right? Just above zero. So we need to address this, obviously, but we also need to address the fact that our margin is really zero right now.
Okay.
And you know the auditors told you that, right, for as long as I've been on the council.
Yeah. Long term, have we been in discussions with Salem regarding their new plan and possibly connecting with them?
I have not, no. And that would be a good idea. I don't know how that connection would work, but, right, I
Is it
don't
gonna
know
cost us
the
a-
layout there to make that connection.
I-
Tough. The old, sorry, Shay. The old line that ran down to Salem is not one, it's still live, still would be usable, but it's, as far as size goes, it doesn't have capacity.
I mean,
So your line would have to be continued down.
Is it in good shape?
Eldridge Drive.
Could we shift more shift more stuff.
Not really.
Wait.
So,
more.
to give you some history, when that was done, we were at capacity. The pipe was taking all it could handle at that
Salem?
point, yes.
Yeah.
So that was the capacity. Really, the only option you'd have would be where the sewer line takes a turn on Salem Canal Road, and instead of it going to the west, it head to the north, down Elk Ridge Drive and out through the fields, close to the proximity. The biggest thing is, it may seem like this is a great way to handle it. The problem we've got is our buy-in. I mean, we're talking some serious money. To run that sewer line, we're probably talking $5 or $6 million just to run a pipe.
That's what I was wondering.
That's just our cost to run the pipe, and then you're gonna have whatever they're gonna charge us.
Because we don't have the infrastructure where we could just switch the
No,
flow.
no,
right?
we can't.
No, we're not existing infrastructure.
The thing that's unfortunate about the way that this gets handed to us is, this went into effect July 1st. We've now missed 2 billing cycles where our margins are this thin to begin with, so we're probably over $2,000 short.
Yeah.
Boom, just because they failed to let us know that this was gonna happen. And quite frankly, looking at it going, okay, well, our rate's $38.93 to $39.90. They've already increased it at least twice without the possibility, they may not have even let us know that, or at least it wasn't made known to the council that it was increasing from when they raised it up to 35. So,
Well, and.
I mean, fundamentally, I look at this and I'm thinking, you know what, okay, you want to raise the rate, that's fine. But you got to give us ample warning to either know ahead of time so we can bill our residents accordingly, or you're going to waive it until we get notified and have the ability to get it in the billing, because the billings have already gone out for August.
But we've had these discussions, and this is the problem, right? We use Payson Sewers, so we are just at their leisure for whatever they decide. And they don't notify us in advance. We've had these discussions
And
before.
we had the
Rates
same-
have about doubled in
We
the
had
last couple
bigger
of years.
problems
They've
with
doubled.
Salem. You think this is
So-
bad? When we were with Salem, they'd send us a bill for $75,000 or $50,000 after they'd made the repairs, and we just had to come up with the money. No warning at all. This, at least, as much as it pains me to say it, when they're sticking it to us, they're doing the same thing to all the residents, because they can't increase ours without increasing theirs.
No, but we don't have time to react.
Yeah, we don't have any time, and I feel like, if nothing else, they owe us a professional courtesy, because if they voted on this and it went into effect July 1st with their residents,
They took this up.
they should have at least said, hey, FYI, and called Royce and said, look, we're changing the rate, let's get this on the July billing so that we're not short a couple $1,000s. I mean, if this had been a $20 increase, do the math. I mean, that would have been really painful. And I'm not terribly thrilled about it. In fact, I think we ought to have some discussion with them to get them to waive that increase for the first 2 cycles even. I don't think that we're out of line to ask for it. We're, you know, I mean.
Yeah, we never got any notice until this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it's a pass-through, but effectively it is a pass-through.
It is.
So with our sewer rates too, our sewer is not metered, right? Like their sewer is metered.
Not yet.
Well, their sewers, they don't meter it in that sense. They know how much stuff is coming in through the gate.
But not
So
just
that's
from us,
Woodland
right?
Hills,
Yeah, but
Elk
they
Ridge,
don't know how much,
Payson.
they don't know how much is Elk Ridge, so we just kind of have this random rate.
Based on their per home household calculations.
Yeah.
But we don't have any way of metering exactly, and instead of being billed by connection, be billed by the actual flows.
Like we do with the garbage collection, where
Yeah.
even though we charge per household, we get billed based on how much the trash weighs
Yeah, tonnage.
and the tonnage.
I mean, is that
I
a discussion you wanna
think
have
it's
or
something,
not? Just,
we can have the discussion, but we gotta have some attorneys involved in the process, because you open the wrong Pandora's box, we're gonna have a whole separate issue there.
we gotta be really
I'm
careful.
going to suggest to you that you don't want to go there.
Okay.
Your homes are overall, I mean, if you look at
Bigger
the
homes
average,
and
your homes are
more
larger,
people.
you've got a larger fixture count. We know we have high water usage. If our water usage is very much higher than what their average is. I mean, it may actually be benefiting us
To not have a meter.
to not have a meter.
But
Well, and that's,
we can
that's
still
what I wondered.
install a meter for our own benefit. I think we should install our own meter and just start.
But what's the cost of doing that?
Well, Cody told us
What,
that it was
tracking
about
it just for our
$500
use?
for the meter. That's what he had said.
There's nothing in the city you can buy for $500.
Well, that's what Cody told us when we brought this up before.
Cody's full of crap, no pun intended.
No, I mean, I would be curious, I mean, in all seriousness, let's figure out what it's gonna cost. And then that way we can start collecting data, and then if it ever comes back and they're saying, well, we're subsidizing you, we've got cold hard data, and we say, well, this is how much stuff has flowed from here to there, because they're gonna have infiltration between where the sewage leaves our line and goes all the way out to Payson. Everywhere there's a connection, there's a potential for that to happen. So you can't really take and stick it at the end of the pipe, so to speak. It's gotta be where it leaves our town, because that's their line, that's their maintenance, that's their issue.
Does it leave our town in one thing, it doesn't go off in separate?
No, there's one,
Just
just a big old
we do a little bit,
line.
goes
That's
to
why
Payson.
Elkridge Drive is so terrible right now.
Yeah.
It's because of where that line was run.
Can we look at the cost?
We gotta look,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we can put a meter in our section of line, and there isn't anything they can do about it.
I thought we
Yeah,
told
but-
you like 2 years ago, Nelson, that they
But
weren't gonna
if-
raise anything for a while.
But
They
hold
weren't,
on,
but then they
if,
keep raising.
right,
Yeah,
if we
it's,
talk about this
12 to
data
$20,000.
in our meetings,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
public, and they get a hold of it, and they know how much is coming through, and they say,
This could backfire.
actually, we are
This could backfire,
subsidizing.
like Shay said.
No,
That's what I'm
only
saying.
if we share the data in the meetings.
Well, it's public information, that's what I'm
Yeah, they
saying.
could get the data.
If we have it, they can get the data. So I'm not so sure.
I'd still like.
We
to
could look into
at what
it.
costs.
You're gonna be in the range of $12,000 to $20,000, because you'll use a partial flume for it, and which needs to go in a huge ball.
We were told
And,
500.
Yeah, we're
Don't hear say, they didn't tell me
Some
500.
flume Probably is only $500, just that, but I just,
Royce about fell out of his chair laughing.
having
All the labor.
put together one of those vaults in the past,
Okay.
The other thing is, I think, you gotta realize that we aren't in a strong bargaining position.
No, no, we're not.
Actually, we don't wanna,
We
before,
don't wanna
we
turn
were
it
feeling
off.
a little bit like Elk Ridge was trying to railroad them or
Well,
make a point or something.
Certainly we want to
You
pay
know,
our
we're
fair
running-
share.
I live down.
Certainly,
It's
we're
a
not
two-way
trying to
street.
not pay our fair share.
Yeah.
There's no intention
Yeah.
to do that,
They
right?
did run,
Yes.
they did run the figures, and quite frankly, it's the other way.
Yeah.
Well,
We can talk to
All right, so,
anyways,
so
that's,
let's,
yeah, I'm
so
saying we don't really
that's
have
out there
any,
ways.
we don't have any control over this. I'm just saying, we've had this discussion with them before about letting us know when they're considering changing
Yeah, I
their
think
rates, when
that's
they do.
legit.
And this is where I feel like
Put
they're
it in
not being a
writing.
good neighborly city to us when we get stuff like this.
Do you,
Especially after
do
we've
you
had these
remember
discussions.
where they
Put
wanted
it in
us
writing.
to be on our operating cost, on our operating revenue? Do you remember in that report what they wanted us to be at as opposed to where we are? 2 to 4% of,
2 to 4%.
but how much money was that? Because every dollar that we raise over above this, our sewer, is $1,000 a month, right?
Roughly, right now, yeah.
Roughly, it's about $1,000 a month. If you raise the rates, 1,000, so 12,000 a year. And I'm wondering, were we more than 12,000 or off, or were we less than 12,000 as far as meeting the target revenue,
Well, that's gonna vary some because the number of connections have increased.
Well, yeah, but I
And
mean, all we can do
there's
is get close
Yeah, you mean on the budget?
on the audit.
We were quite a way, because we only had like $240.
But what should have we been?
I can't remember.
Do you remember?
the answer. But even this year, we gotta realize also, we're eating out of, our budget shows like, I think, 38,000 that we're on the negative side on the budget for the sewer this year.
Yeah, we are, already.
So we're already gonna go in the,
We're
and
already
then this is gonna
targeting
increase
going
that.
Right. So what I'm trying to do is, yes, we got $1 here roughly,
But make it,
and do we need to do
Make
it,
the
are we gonna have to do
accurate
another
adjustment.
$1 on top of this, just to get our own house in order?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the hard reality of where we are. I need that number, because I think that you,
No, we need that,
Well,
and I don't remember.
So here's the thing.
next time, we're gonna have this
We have
on
to-
our agenda.
Because
to
the
vote.
bills go out after our next council meeting, we can't, I mean, I guess we could. I don't think it'd be a very good thing to do, but if we went and said, well, sorry, we didn't collect it in July and August, so here's an extra.
Make it retroactive?
No, that's.
No, I mean, we're gonna charge you $1.94 more on your September bill, because we didn't collect it because Payson,
Oh,
Stiffness,
a
so to speak.
one-time thing?
one time, I mean,
I don't know.
catch up. I don't like it, but man, boy.
Let's see what
this is just
Payson will do
getting old.
first before we.
What are you
Our
gonna
adjustment.
I think we.
I'm gonna
have
send
to-
The whole next
Nelson
bill.
in. Nelson's gonna ask.
I'm ready to go in and just.
We're transferring phones to you guys.
Exactly.
Okay,
No.
it is worth a discussion to say, look, we just didn't have time to react, we didn't get your notice, I mean.
Do we wanna send Nelson in? He might be too hot-headed. Ty,
Oh, I will be.
Ty, you have a nice
No,
sounding voice.
No, you don't wanna poke the sleeping rat right now, trust me.
No, you don't
Actually,
wanna send me in them too.
I think though that it would be good to put it in writing, to just send a letter to them, putting them on notice, that this did create a problem for us. You know, that, the least that we could do.
You wanna write that letter,
Yeah,
will you?
yep.
Okay, that would help.
Okay.
When I say those things, I'm serious, because the staff is up to here, and
Yeah.
I'm up to here, and
Yeah.
we need help.
Okay. I think that letter, that, you know, everything, you know, you put
just
it
a
in writing,
little
it's
short.
just,
Yeah.
that, Henry put them on notice that that created a problem, and we appreciate it. You know, it's not a nasty letter, it's just a,
They'd have to take it to town, their council, and vote on, we could have a,
Well, if we got it to them before tomorrow, they could have it in front of their council tomorrow night.
well, they can't probably put it on the agenda.
They can have a discussion in a work
They can have
session.
a work session, right? Royce, tell me how you're feeling on sending a letter to them. You feel like that's a good solution, or should we just give them a call and
Where do we send Nelson in?
ask them?
We just shock collar. He gets out of my shock.
I think we start with a phone call.
I think we ought to, just,
Yeah, we probably, I think.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I am fairly certain that this is gonna happen every year from here on out, because when they took the $15 increase, that money was supposed to go into an account
Yeah.
for the future sewer plant, and then they turned around and they gave over $50,000 worth of raises to their employees at the sewer plant, and there's zero money in that savings account that should have north of $300,000 in it between us and Payson now. And it's not there. And so now they're going, okay, well, we gotta keep giving our guys raises, how you do it? Well, CPI. So I suspect we'll see this every year, so their guys will get raises. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just telling it like it is.
You know what
But
date
that's
they
the problem, is
approved
we
this?
don't have any control over it.
No.
Yeah,
We can find it out.
I'd like to know if Mayor Moore was there or not. He's been absent in most things at this point in time. I will get it, regardless of all that, we have to handle.
We gotta have a number for our
this
next
increase,
meeting.
and I'll get you a number that brings us up to where the auditor expects us to be on our operating revenues.
for the September bill.
And then we're gonna have to make that adjustment. And then if Payson won't agree to, you know, postpone the effective date of this for us, that we may have to just let it eat into that net revenue this year, or add an additional line item amount to it, or something like that.
It's
We can do
hard.
both.
Yeah, well,
We can do
it's
it.
hard, because we're staring at this, we're staring at the cost of paying for an election.
We are.
I mean, we're talking real money. I mean, we could go out and buy a truck with the amount of money that other people have left us over the bill on.
We do, Nelson, we deal with this so
I
often.
know it's,
Unfunded mandates from state
and I
and
wish
things like that, it is,
more people knew that we had to deal with this.
it's actually
It's hard, yeah.
Okay, so let's make sure that we get on the council next time we meet, an action item to raise sewer rates. Well, see, we'll have to have public hearing? No,
No,
we don't, because it's just.
because
it's,
this is, we're not the ones,
Well, we don't have to anyway
Yeah.
on the city bill.
but I think it would probably be good to at least let the residents know why.
Absolutely.
Let's get it out there on our Facebook page, let's get it out on our city website.
And give them the name and
Let's
number of
put a copy
Payson's.
of, let's, no,
I was gonna
let's,
say, just put the copy of the actual letter that we got from Payson and say,
Now, be careful.
well, we probably ought to redact the phone number, you know, like
I don't
it's
know
a
about
top
that, I don't know, maybe leave
secret
it.
document or something.
Be careful. You
it's
know,
public information. No,
Public
but
information.
if you say, by the way, you will notice on your water, on your
If you have a bone to
city
pick with
bill,
them, here's the number to call.
the sewer rate is raised, here's the letter we received from Payson on an X
They won't
date.
raise those rates again.
that accounts for this percentage of it.
Yeah.
We had to improve our position
They can get a
to
little
some
taste
degree,
of
and
what you
that's
get.
why it
Because we're
happened.
going negative currently.
I
because
don't
they
mind letting our
previously
residents
said-
know why. It's a fair thing.
They need
Let's
to
throw
know why.
Payson
They need
under
to
the
know.
bus. Let's do this, guys.
Okay.
No, we
All right,
threw
let's
ourselves
go.
under the bus.
Yeah, keep going.
Gladstone area, Payson
Mayor?
properties, possible code for service. Yes.
Any opposition to jumping to the fire sprinkler? No, that's what you're here for, right?
Like, he's here for the,
Or is there
Anything,
other
right?
things
No.
too? I don't know.
For what?
Well, the Gladstone area, or no, sorry, curb,
Curb and gutter?
the curb and gutter, Elkridge
All
Drive,
of the topics.
next to Parkview. You're not, you're, oh wait, no, you're the Payson. He's the next one
Oh,
up,
yeah.
yeah.
number 6.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's the guy that's in the county that Payson wants us to provide him with all the services and let them collect revenue.
So
They're
let
out
me,
of their freaking
let
minds.
me tell you where I've gone on this. 'Cause this is another, you know what? If the state would just get out of our way, we could do a good job. But the state has dictated in this area as well, so. The state does not require us to provide water to anybody outside the city. The state, if we do supply water outside of the city, the Supreme Court has ruled that we cannot charge additional rate, increase the rate based solely upon the fact that they're not in the city. Right? You have to have some other underlying justification in order for you to add anything to our normal water rates that we charge anybody within the city, right?
And that's not impact fees or connection
That's
fees, that's
nothing to do,
water
that's just
rates.
water rates,
Yeah,
right?
I just make sure we're clear.
So originally, I was thinking that, fine, we would go ahead and charge for the normal water rate, the normal sewer rate, charge the impact fees that we normally charge. But I got thinking that the resident, and this goes, in my mind, this goes back to accountability to the residents of the city. And they've been putting, a good portion of our residents have been building a water system for a good long time. And over the years and years of payments, right? That water system now is worth north of $6 million, probably close to $7 million, right? So if we pick up somebody outside the city, then I wanted to say, look, you need to buy into the system. It's $7 million, we got 1,000 connections, that's cost you $7,000 to buy into our water system. We'll provide you water at the same rate from there on out, right? But anything over and above the actual cost of putting in the connection is an impact fee.
And we can
And
charge
now
an
you have
impact
to
fee
go
to
through
someone
the
outside
impact
of the city.
fees with the studies and all that kind of stuff. So you can't, there's no way for us, I don't feel, to justify through the state law the fact, that kind of a
Have them
plan
buy in to the system.
to buy in, right? All we can do is do the same thing we do with the other residents. There's a connection fee, there's an impact fee, and just charge normal water rates with potentially some nominal, small, special processing fee because we won't bill the resident, because I would bill Payson,
So basically-
right? And let Payson collect on all these things, because the reason we need to do that is because they then determine whether it comes from a property tax or a utility bill or anything else that comes through, so.
Well, it's the same way with their sewer, they don't collect from each residence.
They don't
bill the
collect from each
city,
resident.
The city pays it,
Right.
and the city collects from residents.
But the fact that we can't, that if we do this, we treat them just like a normal resident, and they don't buy in, I'm struggling with, how do I go to the citizens of the city who are already super hypersensitive
Oh, yeah, about the water.
of where every drop of water that we pull out of the ground, right? And say, we want to provide water to out of the city residents.
Can
We're
we
out
do
of our
it,
mind.
can we do it with extra water rights that we transfer?
It's not about water rights, we got plenty of
I
water
mean,
rights.
it's worth money though, right?
It's sucking it out of the ground. How much can we suck out of the ground, and how confident are our residents that we have the supply? Our residents in the city have seen the city double in size,
So, okay,
right?
but,
And before that doubling of size happened, they were already worried about how much water capacity and the ability to deliver that water to their homes.
okay, so,
And then we ran out of water, not because we didn't have supply, but because of equipment failure, right? So that put them on the hypersensitive,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
super, you know, these are fighting words,
so,
that's where I'm at.
I think what his proposal just was though, we can't do it through impact fees, we can't do it through charging extra. Can we possibly require them to bring more water rights to the city, transfer water rights to the city, which then we would have, and we could sell to other people to use? Because that's a.
Offset it with water rights.
Yeah, it's worth money, right? It's a-
Yeah,
Yes,
a
it
water
is.
right is
Yeah.
worth money, and then we could take that water right and sell it to another person who's building on their lot. So what I'm just saying, I think his solution is a way to get around it. Is that even possible to require extra water rights? And that kind of gets around this, keeps us in line with state mandates.
This is,
well-
we're trying to thread a needle through a haystack here for a few different reasons.
You know what David Church would say? Well, you can try it.
Well,
I'm
all
not
I'm
saying- I'm
saying
not
is
saying
like,
no,
this is
it
his
may be a
solution,
possibility.
let's like discuss it.
It may be a possibility. If we were to do that, what we would probably want to do, because we have those SUMA rights that we can draw from, that are already technically
Yep.
tied to the city. So there's no long transfer process. And plus there's no scrutiny from the state as those water rights move in saying, well, what's this water right, or what's this water coming in for, or that type of thing. So, because that's already got Elkridge City on the change applications. So I guess I'm just trying to think how to do this, because basically, if they were to buy the water from Sumoa, but really what they're doing is they're buying it from Elkridge, and then Elkridge purchases the water from Sumoa.
You know what, I think the answer is we just tell them, just hear me out. I'm not saying no, what I'm saying is no. We're telling.
You have to
No,
know,
no,
Nelson.
you have to understand, okay, if we tell you that we can't provide you with water because you're not in our city, you can go to the state, you can get your attorneys, you can go back and say, Payson City won't let me build on my property because they can't provide services, and Elkridge can. Therefore, I want to be part of Elkridge, and you can force them to let you come into Elkridge.
Is that what you want to, kind of?
Well, why do you think they can do that? Because all he's got to do is say, go
The
drill a
general
well.
feel is, I think everybody up on that road
Well, I
wants to.
know it, but if you drill a well
okay.
there, I mean, you're talking a heck of a well.
350 feet deep. They already had one property owner right down by the golf course already did this.
Well, yeah, but you're
On
looking
the
at the
bottom
top, so
side,
you
you've
gotta
got the
go,
hill.
you got the top of the hill all the way down, and then from there down into the
Yeah, we're
aquifer.
another 100 feet.
Yeah.
It's gonna, somebody's gonna do it.
I mean, that's
It's gonna
Payson's
happen.
option, right? They could say,
Well, sure.
they say, no, we don't.
But-
That's our
But I,
parade of homes. We don't want to give it up.
That's from them, they told me that.
well, I know.
That's
But-
the
but
only
I-
place they can build parade homes in Basin. That's why they didn't wanna let
That's
that.
not in Payson. They're out of their minds if they think it is. They're out of their mind.
100% agree.
Listen, no.
Well,
We're sending you down to talk about
Send
sewer.
me down.
But
Send me down.
I think Nelson's
It's
point
in their
is,
annexation boundary.
it's
though.
the
state's
property
approved
owner,
that.
it's the property owner's right to decide where they want to annex in and to fight that fight.
But they're already
That's what
in
you're
there.
saying.
They're
Yeah, we're already
already,
part of Payson.
They're already
so
part of Payson.
but Payson cannot provide the services.
I 100% agree with you. I'm mostly looking for the shortest time road to get my house built.
well, you know, they have a really huge well they drilled on the golf course just down the hill from you that produces more than all of ours.
I heard that,
Okay,
and
but
I
my
saw
thing-
that, but they didn't mention that at
listen.
all when I met with them.
Well, you can see it.
But do you understand my concern on a lot of this though, is that then he's driving up on all our roads and using, you know what I'm saying? And it's
Oh,
like,
sure.
and we're not getting any of that? No.
No.
No,
Well, that's why
Payson,
it's,
no.
that's why it's
Yeah,
best for them
that-
just
that's-
to annex into,
It works great for Payson because they
Elkridge.
get all this property taxes.
That's what I'm
And we
saying,
get-
but that's,
and
and we
the
get
bill.
crapped on. No, Payson. That's insanity.
That's the thing, they want us to provide all the services, have them drive on their roads.
Yeah, and then they
get
collect
them.
all the money. Yeah, well, no, that's dumb.
That's why the property owners probably need to get together and
Amen.
fight the fight.
Amen.
You know, honestly, property owners probably need to get together and they need to be the one to fight the fight and say, we want to be annexed into Elbridge. We want to change.
Will Payson allow you?
No, that's gonna be a fight.
It's gonna be a
It's
fight.
gonna be a
It's
lot of
gonna be a fight.
turbulence politically for you guys if we try to do that.
It's gonna be a
Why?
fight.
And, cause there's already a guy that's got his stuff approved to build on in the spring. And that's gonna be the easiest road for
Isn't-
everyone is to punch a hole and put a septic.
Septic.
We're here to talk about the better option, obviously, but if it involves years of drawn out court fights, it's not gonna happen.
Now, the other choice is to just provide it.
I don't think that's,
There's
nothing
I don't
that
think
says-
that's fair to our
You know-
residents.
you know what I mean?
Do you?
I mean,
They're using all our, I don't think that's fair. And
Not
I,
unless we can do something with the water
But-
rights where
but hold
they
it.
buy into our system through.
we've let Payson use our roads for years, because everybody that uses that golf course goes up there.
Well, you know, you could actually make the argument, I hate to say this, the
Right.
argument the other way, because that road that goes up to the golf course, clubhouse, before High Sierra, Coolidge Cove, and
Why don't we
all
just,
that was there. Elbridge Drive that went up to the golf course was already there, and we just came in and connected into their road. They put the road in, we didn't,
yeah,
to the
I
clubhouse.
got a road it is too.
But, no, my thought on it is this, okay? One of the areas where
just,
we have
let's
a real
just put a
challenge.
toll road right there to the golf course.
Well,
Why not? So we can toll the golfers and the, I'm just saying,
You can buy a
they can
monthly
outside the box for Oakland City.
cities are not allowed to take action that is detrimental to other cities. Period, that's state law. So, when they come in and they annex an area that is currently serviced, I'm gonna just come in the annexed area that's serviced by SESD, and they come in, and then all of a sudden, they're no longer our customers. They're taking away the customer base that's paying in and keeping our electrical rates low, and they come in and they just take possession of the whole of it. And that's what's happening. With Payson and with Salem and Spanish Fork, Santaquin, those are things that are going on. I think maybe there's an opportunity to be had here that we say, okay, yeah, we can provide this service, but don't step on our toes in other areas. Stay the heck out of my other business.
Forbay, is that what you're talking about?
Well, and that's the other part of this whole equation
Well,
is
that's why I don't think we can fight it, because
Right.
we have that interlocal agreement, and
because
that's,
it's like
we can't mess with that with Forbay.
we're bound and gagged and tied and
Mm-hmm.
with cement
We
shoes,
kind
and
of
we're on our way into the lake
made
already.
that decision with Haskell. I mean, with that interlocal agreement.
Yeah.
Well, we told
Yeah.
him, he has to fight the fight. If he wants to do it, he's gotta fight the fight. We can't, as a city, take
So
it
if,
over.
he wants to build a house, and we're talking about a big fight. And he's gonna punch a hole in the ground, and he's gonna put in a septic tank, because that's as fast as route there. We don't do something. So that's one side of my brain. The other side of my brain says, we've got residents that are very sensitive to this. Even if we charge them $7,000 as a fee, right? What would the residents think,
They're gonna be ticked.
right?
I mean, I'm
I
just being
feel
honest.
I feel some serious obligation to represent our, I don't know why I'm saying this, because I was elected to do this, right?
Well, some of them do my job.
To be sensitive to our residents, and what, I bet you I could put a survey out and say,
Oh, people would just, no.
how do you feel about us providing
Silly
water to
water
people
connection.
outside the city? Can I just tell you what that's gonna return?
Excuse me. We had this issue come up in a prior council, where the golf course came to us and said, we'd like to buy water from the city because, you know, our greens are dying. And we stiffed them on it for this very reason. We didn't feel like we were in the business of providing, especially for a golf course. My only concern on this is that unless we've got a history of doing this, if we start doing it now, we open the door, how do we say no to things like golf courses and other things when they come to us? in the future.
Well, Haskell's got that's another whole set of issues there.
But yeah, but we opened the door, that's, I mean, it's
But
true.
we can close that door differently. That's an easier door to close, I think.
So it would be, you're gonna,
from the golf course.
so they won't let you hook onto their sewer, right? So you're gonna have to put in you're gonna have to do your own septic tank.
I mean, the sewer really, I think that one's the easier one to solve. We can pump through you guys, or we can do septic.
Okay, but you'll have to put your own well in if we say no on water.
Yeah,
How much will the well cost you?
30 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still doable, and the property's well worth that, so. And we can run 7 houses on the well.
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Can I
And
ask
I'll
some
bet you
more?
there's a.
So,
Back off,
That's
back off,
the-
William. Just kidding.
according to the petitions
I
that
would
we
be
just
going
went
for
through for
We're gonna be
the
neighbors.
protests,
Well, they'll have to go through that same process.
They'll have to go that same
and find out
process.
It's not gonna be.
Well, it's okay, it's over by the golf course, nobody's gonna protest that.
What?
No.
The well. I mean, they didn't protest Payson, nobody did.
nope.
Well, bigger than all of ours combined, not a single protest. We talk about moving water from over here to over here, now you pump more water.
Could we buy the golf course and the well?
We don't want the
You don't
golf
want
course,
that.
they lose money.
Oh,
We
yeah,
don't want the
we
golf
don't want
course,
to touch
oh,
that.
yeah.
We could change that a little bit more.
We're just
No,
rezoning.
guys, no.
They don't charge anything,
Good
that's
answer.
why they don't make money.
Don't tell them.
So you're squirmish
Buy
on
it,
the
sell
whole,
property.
money laundering scheme.
I,
Is that what you're calling
So what I understand is you guys already own the rights, like you could just set the price at whatever you want, right? It's a commodity, you
Yeah.
set the price.
That's right, we could.
There's nothing shady there. We can either buy it or not buy it, you're not forcing me to buy it.
I don't
could still buy
understand.
water shares and put a well in if I don't like
If we
it.
were to be audited and the state looked at it and it went to
it would.
the court system.
I don't even wanna go there, because he could go to the Payson and buy the exact same rights.
But what I don't understand is if what Nelson's saying is true, where, you know what I mean, like, doing, what is it, what's the word
Yeah,
you used?
we're doing things that are harmful to other cities.
Then why is that not a legitimate reason to have them allow you to annex in?
You know, it's one of those things that doesn't make a lot of sense because, and I won't say it, but
Just
the
say
area that's
it.
in Salem down there near you, Tricia,
That
it used to be in
makes
Elk Ridge.
Mhm.
Part of the reason is we negotiated a certain number of sewer connections and we could provide sewer to that area north of 112 South. And there wasn't enough capacity in the existing line to take that and run it through. And that was one of the reasons that they were able to go and they involved their legal counsel and they came to us and said, we don't want to be part of Elk Ridge because you can't provide us a service. And it was the property owner's request. We honored their request because we were gentlemen.
And they've all told you they won't honor your request?
We haven't officially filed anything, but just meeting with staff, they're not open.
So
Rather than the
you've
council.
talked with staff. I think it's time to talk to some of the council.
Okay.
I can
With a
tell you
hired
names.
attorney, then is to dig a well. I'm just saying.
Yeah, might be. Getting some of the other property owners on board, some of them are a little too busy to talk about it, seems like, so.
You're not talking about
No,
my
I mean,
dad.
you
No,
probably
no, I
need
talked to your dad.
to do an
He's on
official
board.
Yeah, I
request
have a
with
vested interest
Payson
in
City.
this.
So, I mean, we
I
can do
would
that. I don't
listen-
know what that process looks like, to be honest. It's like, it
I
can
would-
be messy.
So,
Less.
from my perspective, you know, you're meeting with Payson staff, and we're trying to hash out this discussion. My question is, where's our seat at the table? You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, if you're gonna meet with them, you're gonna have this discussion, tell them you want representatives from Elk Ridge invited, so we can be there and we can hear and see and have the
And
discussion.
have Nelson go.
Because if we
Not
don't,
me.
it's like trying to read minds. I mean,
Yeah.
I know some of the council members better than others.
Nelson knows most of them. He'd be good to.
Well,
But some of them are very easy to read and you know how they're gonna go. They're gonna do the right thing for the right reasons. And others are gonna do what they're gonna do because that's what they do. They're gonna turn around and block me on Facebook.
do you have the people who did the Salem annexation that you could put them in contact with?
So,
Just so, I mean, you can talk with somebody who's been through the
where did it
process.
go?
and really
Yeah,
did.
there was, where did it go? We had
Who would
a,
be the first next level up? Is this a Tuckett issue, next level up, or does this go straight to council?
no, I would
Straight to council?
ask Dave, but then, I'm trying to find.
Well, we even got the indication at the Tuckett level from our meeting
but maybe he
They don't
doesn't
want
feel
it.
like it, they even want to
I would
discuss
take
it.
it to the council.
I would probably go and talk to a couple people. It's an election year, so go to Central
It's
Bank. Start with the 2 councilmen that work there, and then go from there. You could talk to, where do we go here? Yeah. I would talk, the guy with Cole Surveying and Engineering. He was one of the
In
property
Salem?
owners that,
Coal surveying
Yep.
and engineering in Salem.
he was one of them that was very adamant, and he's basically the one that carried the banner. Him and Paul Trevor. They're the two.
Nelson, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to stand up in front of the resident and say, we're gonna sell water to the
I'm
to
not,
non-residents?
no.
You're gonna have to do it. That's what it's
Yeah.
gonna boil down to.
No,
Don't send him on this goose chase if you're not gonna be willing to vote.
Well,
He's
from my,
saying-
no,
he's
I'm not saying,
He's sending him on the annexation, saying.
I'm
If it's
saying
limited to
right
that,
now,
that's
yeah.
fine.
That's all
where
I'm,
it's-
because I'll tell you, there's no way on earth I'm gonna get up and say, we just sold X amount of water shares to 7 or 10 homes or whatever outside. No way.
You aren't gonna be able
I'm
to.
not either, and I wanna build on that land, and I'm not, and I don't think that's right. I don't think we
Yeah,
should
I
do that.
don't
That's a point,
That's
that's
out.
a point, what, 0.5% of our overall allocation, right? Water surplus, what surplus supply.
I mean,
Because I think we have enough, it's less than that, it's more like 0.2.
But I think he opens up, or says a good point, that opens up a can of worms that I don't think we want to open at all. We're not.
So supplying water outside
Yes,
the city.
we're not gonna do that. I think that's,
No, I think the
Yes.
annexation is the better.
it's the way to go.
yeah, when we
Or
told them
well.
no on that, they told us no, they wouldn't sell us the golf course hole for the pre-agreed upon price. And then they came back a few months ago and offered it to us at pennies on the dollar and didn't want to take it. I mean, that's a reality.
Well, I think you kind of got an idea of the flavor, the feelings of the council.
Okay. So if we annex, I've only seen stuff to annex into the city. I've never seen anything paperwork-wise to
Boundaries.
annex out.
Boundary
Is that-
change.
Yeah, it's a boundary
It's a
line
boundary
adjustment.
change. And the county has to approve it, I believe, too.
Oh, yeah, they do, they have to.
So who do you file it with?
Call
Well,
that
the-
one guy you said, would he know all the,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Paul
That's
Tor
hard.
and.
So it's gonna be at the county level probably?
Probably.
It will go there. I just watched one of their, can you believe I went in on YouTube and watched a county meeting? It was like,
Oh, their meetings are painful.
but they were discussing this issue, so.
Yeah, it's,
Seemed like it's, these have to go, boundary change have to go through the county.
yeah.
But obviously.
I mean,
this would have to
and
be
both
split too,
councils
so-
have to approve too, that's the other part of the equation. So, I mean, let's say you talk Payson into doing it,
Watch it.
I mean, I don't wanna send you down this path if the other council members here wouldn't be okay annexing it in if Payson gave you the
Okay.
thumbs up to allow.
All right.
Okay.
But,
but if you don't have to hire an attorney and you can just talk to someone and start doing that, that may be a cheaper
Yeah.
route anyway.
go to Fast Gas in the morning, Paul Tavor's always there.
What does he drive?
Get a hold of
I don't
Nelson
know,
after and he'll give you the
always,
info.
he sits on the second table in,
How would you know
and he
if you're
usually
not
has a
there?
hat, huh?
How would you know if you're not
Just
there?
buy Nelson breakfast and he'll walk you down there. Take care
Okay,
of it.
introductions.
Hey,
It's gonna cost you
I
about
don't
10
want it
bucks.
to look-
Apparently a Diet Coke might work. You might get on that cheap. All right, let's go to the next item. Curb and gutter discussion, and McKay, I think you can lead us on this, right? Of the
Yeah.
Curb and gutter on the parking corner,
Yeah.
next parking corner.
So this would be on the corner here of Columbus and Park Drive here, that section of missing curb and gutter that's right in that area.
The one that's Elk Ridge Drive up to Columbus or whatever it is there, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you kind of go from Elk Ridge Drive, around Park Drive, and then around Columbus, so kind of.
Yeah, right, we took that field trip down there. Yep.
Yeah.
This
Part of a regular meeting.
Okay, yeah, so,
So the issue is the water comes down Park Drive and jumps the curb and goes right into the, not really the curb, just jumps the road and goes right into the house. We have an opportunity with the development coming in right there to continue.
To extend it up Elk Ridge Drive and go around the corner.
Yep, to continue that up around the corner and then around to Columbus, which would make a connection into the existing curb and gutter that was required to be put in.
And we determined that there would be no need for a sump, additional sump there either.
Right. The sumps that are further down the line headed towards Oak Ridge Drive are pretty good size, and it won't be taking that much more water. It will take a little bit of it, not a ton more water. Talked with Dean originally on this, Dean Ingram, and if we decide to do it, I mean, this would be something that I guess we would have to fund. Kind of try to see if we could get development to take care of it. We kind of called our bluff on it pretty quick, but so this. But Dean was willing to do it as he puts his curb and gutter in, so it would, the cost of it would be substantially less than doing it on our own. So if we were to do it with Dean, kind of in line with the Parkview Corners subdivision that's going in right there.
So I was gonna say, what, we would just have that little strip on Parkview Drive?
So we'd have a little section on Elk Ridge Drive, and then a little section come up Park, and then turn on Columbus right there.
So right,
And go down and connect here.
Yeah, but I was gonna say this property owners, right?
and in the past, on corners, we paid for one side and the property owners typically paid for the other.
That's
But
what
I don't know
was
if
gonna
we've gone down that path with them at all, if we've even discussed it.
From what I've heard is that they were a bit of a holdout on the last time we were forced. So I would assume that they still stand with their decision from the original time this was presented, but
And we let them put just a berm in there.
yeah, we just kind of let them put that
That's all,
berm in
we
there.
let them do it.
Now it's directing the water, that berm is now directing the water down through their lot and will be going down into these
To the backside of the.
Parkside Cove or Parkview Corner. Sorry, there's some.
Which I
We
believe
had this whole
the
discussion.
planning
before.
commission had
Yeah.
this whole discussion about it.
We had this whole discussion before.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, if we ever want to put the curb and gutter at a reasonable cost, because Dean's there,
Yeah.
now's the time to do it, otherwise we just leave it go the way it is.
And how much is it?
It hasn't been quoted yet.
We have no
We,
idea.
we
You know
don't.
what the foot, how much a foot they use it.
Okay, so my question is though, we need to treat all residents in the city the same. If we've made other residents pay for the curb and gutter in front of their house, do we need to lien this house for the curb and gutter?
Which we talked about, right?
No, it's different. No, we talked about it in one by the church.
I'm just saying we need to treat all residents the same. If we've made some pay for it, and we're gonna put curb and gutter in front of two other people's houses, they need to either put a payment plan together or we need to lien it, because we've done that to other residents in the city.
That's true. That's fair.
We need to just make sure we're consistent.
Done it maybe on a development though, like the.
How did we
the
exclude us? What was the language to exclude these guys? Was it, we'll let you do a berm in lieu of? Because if that's the case, then shame on us.
Well, no, I don't think that was the case, because they lived in that house, I'm drawing on my memory at this point, but that berm wasn't always there, and it was probably 5 or 6 years after they moved into the house, before the berm went in, and that's when they planted all the Quakies and everything there. And I think that they did that because at that point in time, we had a council who didn't believe in any type of storm drainage system, because they even offered to tear mine out for free. So, I feel like in this scenario, I think we need to I think we owe it to the rest of the residents and to these residents, just go have a conversation and say, look, this is what we're doing. We can set up a plan. We have, it's not like we don't have money in the bank where we can set up a payment plan to repay this back in through our storm drain fund, because that's part of the reason we have funds built up there, is so that when we have these projects, we can cash flow them without having to go out and bond, like we did out here on Escalante when we put
Yeah,
curbing on both
that's
sides.
fine. I just need to know what the language was when we granted an exception to having curb and gutter put in.
it was probably
Did we collect
Councilman.
money in lieu of? Did we do anything in lieu of?
No, because
We just let them say no.
the other curbing,
That's my understanding of the story, they just said, we're not doing it.
No. so,
I hate kicking crap down the road.
no,
One
when,
across the street doesn't have curb and gutter, on
Right.
Drive.
we don't.
He just has rocks in there.
I know.
Yeah, but when the curbing was put in here,
They had,
they didn't do anything because it wasn't hurting any of these people by not having it. And
So
and
we
I
just
know
let the one house on that
this
street
this
go
resident
without.
actually paid for his neighbors
Oh, what a good person.
because
Well,
of their situation, and he was
so
he'd been
all the
flooded
neighbors
twice.
down that street paid for curb and gutter.
Except for the one
Yeah.
on the corner.
Said
Yeah,
no.
and,
That's our
and
understanding story.
then you've
This
got
is
this right
insane.
here.
You look at the map.
Shame
No.
on us.
See, we've got this piece right here, there was no curbing
Yeah,
done here,
yeah, right.
and right there, and then you come back up right here, and there's one house right there.
All right.
Well,
If that's
Shay
what
told
works,
us we
we'll
could
get-
create
We
this
could-
little SID to fix this and just charge them.
We can either do
And
it
fix
that
the
way or-
one spot, the road across, and get that whole area finish putting in the curb
But
and
if we're
gutter.
gonna do it there, we gotta do it,
Why?
good down at the church.
well, if you're gonna,
It's a timing
You're
thing.
going-
Eventually
No,
we
it's-
would.
Yeah, eventually we will, but right, they're getting theirs right up to their property line. If we finish that one house, then it'll be finished that whole section.
Then it's done.
Then it's done. Now is the time to finish
I agree.
these two little
I
houses.
agree that now's the time.
Yeah.
Cost
When
wise.
this went through planning commission,
Yeah.
Dean and his developer, or I think it was RB or whoever,
Yeah.
they were saying that they were gonna correct and collect that and make it not an issue into the backyards. That came up.
Right.
Another thing too is, I mean, I know the people in the corner and they don't have money to pay for it.
That's what I've seen.
yeah.
So,
I mean, that's why I'm more comfortable with the lien, because then if they ever do sell them, we get our money back. If we don't, then it's in and we're taken care of.
so now, I
He's
mean,
responsible for the
so Dean at the time, I think it was an issue, now he's saying it's gonna be an issue? Or are we just saying convenience of being cheaper now, let's do it?
I think that's what we're
That's the-
saying.
I mean, okay, well,
To me, that's what we're saying, because I don't
No.
think anything has changed as
Yeah.
far as Dean, right? And
But-
his ability to absorb that water.
But,
well, that was part of the, you know, when we
That was part of
approved
it.
that he said it wasn't gonna be a problem, if it
Right.
was, he would burn the backside, whatever,
Right.
onto his stuff.
But we really should finish that curb and gutter area right there and solve the whole problem for everybody, not have water running across people's lawns
Yeah.
and driveways into other people's yards regardless.
Let's hit up the other neighbor that paid for the other neighbors. and see if we can
Oh,
get-
he won't, he's met out.
All right, so let's close this one
no,
down.
I think we show it to the resident. Just go talk with them and say, this is what we're doing. How would you prefer the
They're not gonna
payment?
be able to.
Well, no, but what I'm saying
But we
is,
should tell them before we put a lien on their property.
yes, I mean, and
When does
give them
Dean
the
need to know?
option,
This section here.
Okay?
right? You don't just go out and lien somebody's
No, no,
property
no, I
without talking
totally
with them
agree.
and having
Dean
a
needs to
Yeah,
discussion.
but we just, we're gonna do that
Um,
tonight.
I think we have some time.
He's gotta do all
There-
that excavation.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there before this.
I think it's
Yeah.
important.
There's a lot to do right there, so,
I agree with you.
so I would think,
We need
hold on, I'm
to,
pulling a number for
we
you.
need to get a
guys.
cost.
Yeah.
Roughly
That's-
30 feet or.
Wait, do we get to leave at 9?
So then I've got
Only the special.
127.
We'll get a cost.
See you, Laura.
And I think we need to know that.
How many,
Okay.
Do we have to do any kind
And
of
then we're
public
doing
hearing
that
on
other
this?
house.
It's about
going
333,
on Birch
'cause
Drive,
there's gonna
the
be
new development.
about 30 feet around the
That.
corner.
and then you're,
Well, we'll talk about here in just a second.
right?
Yeah, and so I'm, he's
There's other issues than that.
showing $14 linear foot
Okay.
for the,
Quick question.
Just for the con.
for the
Isn't
concrete.
it pretty mandatory for like a building
And,
permit?
and then
why
he's got
do some people say
$1.75
they
for
don't?
Because we had a period of time
And
when
then I figure about
the trend was no.
$4 for patch, concrete patch. That was
they were,
$4 a foot.
they even offered to take my curbing out when they
Then you
repaved
know
my
how you
road.
go prep and stuff
What?
too.
So is this already pre-built area or is this to be built area?
Say $24.
It's a,
Already,
It's
it's already
already
built.
there.
It's already built, there's already a house that has been
But-
for about.
there's one house there, but there's new
I
houses
mean,
going
you
in
don't
next
have
to it.
open that, cause he's
We
already
have
have
curb
All
curb.
right.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next
And the
one.
houses on the other side of it all have curb and gutter.
Twice, we just need to get a number of what.
So you'll have one house without curb and gutter when
You what?
everybody else
For
has.
there, across the road,
About 8,200.
House,
Yeah,
whatever
it's
that
about
is.
if I was-
Talk about bookmobile.
How much is that gonna be?
I don't know.
Hey,
This is Brittany.
All right, this is bookmobile.
Okay. we
How
pay
many,
for it now.
how many stops do you want? And we have not budgeted for it. Where's the bill at?
They just do one stop, don't they?
They just do one stop, and 1 hour stop is what we currently have.
And what's the cost for that?
28, I think, is what he said. So I had a good talk with Commissioner Lee on this. We went through a whole big discussion on this. And I talked to him, just so you guys know, about, look, there's lots of services the county provides that different cities take more participation in than other. And I said, you need to treat this service like all the other county services. And that was my proposal to him. He said, well, for example, what? Because we do treat them all the same. I said, transit. Let's talk about transit. How much money does Utah County spend in transit? Does it come to Elkridge? No, it does not. So you're paying for huge amount of money of the budget that we pay into for transit that we don't use because it doesn't come here. But you want to charge us for the bookmobile to come here because you're charging, so we had this talk, and he's like, well, what other stuff? So we talked about, we talked about
coins.
Yeah, we talked
You were
about
the wrong one to ask that to, Brittany. Wrong one.
we talked about a couple different services, right? And in the end, he's like, look, I just have a hard time charging one city for it and not charging another city. And I said, no, you can't think of it that way. You just have to think of it. You know what I mean? I said, then go ahead and charge all the other cities for transit and don't charge us for transit. You take that transit bill and you charge the other cities, right? You take that transit bill and you break it down and according to population or whatever you want to do for the cities that it goes to. And you don't charge us for that at all. Anyways, we had this big long discussion. He wasn't very happy with me.
No,
To say the least.
I'm not surprised.
No, but what it came down to is then I said, well, so how do you plan on charging people? And he's like, well, we're going to charge it based upon population for the bookmobile. And I was like, well, hold on a minute, because if some city gets the bookmobile for 2 hours and some city gets the bookmobile for 1 hour, but it's based on population, I'm like, that doesn't affect the cost of the bookmobile at all. The cost of the bookmobile is how long they're there, you know what I mean? Or how many books are being checked out. There's other ways, but I was like, population is such a random number, because he had quoted me like $4,100 for based upon population. Is what the cost
For here?
Yeah, for our city would be to have the bookmobile.
Let's just buy books for everybody.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, and
You can buy a lot of books for $20.
we had this discussion of population is definitely the wrong idea if you're looking at charging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that doesn't take into any way the cost of the bookmobile. So they've come out with this new plan, which is based upon how long your stop is,
Right.
which I think is a little more fair, but I don't know. I think our city and other little cities around about, maybe we need to get together and talk to all the commissioners. Because there's plenty of little cities in Utah County that don't participate in these other hugely funded.
Oh, I know. I
County
sit in these
venues.
meetings when they talk about these multi-million-dollar projects.
That big sheet that you had with
Right.
run through 50 or whatever?
Right, and there's a bunch of these multi-million-dollar projects that they discuss from the county perspective.
Yeah.
And we don't get any. In fact, that's why I drafted that whole big long list on HB, whatever it was for that additional tax increase, right? And it was all going to UTA. Or a good portion of it, 40% of it.
Yeah,
And I get nothing from this city on UTA. I don't know anybody, maybe one or two people that might go drive down to the bus stop and hop on the bus. But it's completely ineffective for us.
That's what I told him. If you want to get to the bus or get to the train, you have to drive a car. And as long as you're driving, you
just
don't
drive.
need the bus, or you're already halfway there. You know what I mean? By the time you get there. But I mean, I think that they had told me, if I remember right, the total cost when I talked to Britton Lund at the state about this. the total cost to like Utah County was not that much. It was like $90,000 a year
For the whole county.
for the whole county to run the bookmobile for the entire year. So when you're talking about the Utah County's budget of whole $90,000, like that is such a small
Okay, so
fractional share, but
are we
anyways,
gonna,
that's just.
thumb the nose at the bookmobile?
Well,
Are we gonna
Let-
come up
let
with
me-
$2,800?
So-
How well used is
when
that
we
there?
were paying for it before we discontinued it,
Yeah,
we were being billed pretty close to that.
okay.
So then we said, well, how many people are using it? Now, at that point in time, our participation rate wasn't anywhere close to what it is now based on the, I think Brittany sent an email that said how many were.
68 card holders.
Okay.
So we have 68 card holders, and our
Yeah.
circulation was around like 2,684 books.
So,
One
so
year is
those,
1857.
those numbers are substantially different than the last time when we discontinued it, because at that point in time, we had one family in town who was using it. It was like, man, we could buy every book they could read and save money.
So how many checkouts did they have?
2,600 one year and 1,800 another year.
That service needs to be advertised on Facebook. My kids pay for a membership and check out books in Spanish Fork.
I do too.
So, okay, so.
Because we don't know about it and we don't know
So
when it
it's
comes.
easier, I
or
can't-
what
Yeah,
it's
so
like.
the deal is, we can use the Utah County Library in Mapleton anytime we want for free. But you have to drive to Mapleton, you can check out books there anytime you
Ain't
want.
nobody got time for
The
that.
bookmobile comes here, right? And I think the fact that it comes here is why we get a pretty high usage. Anyways, it's up to 68 patrons, which a patron can be one person or it can be the entire household. So,
All right, so,
and
I
I will just
guess-
tell you from personal use, it is crowded and it is there all the time. And the bookmobile was thinking about increasing the amount of time they were here before this all happened because of the use. We have one of the higher uses. When I talked with Brent
well,
Lund.
that's good.
Yeah, when I talked with Brent and Lund too, they said besides Alpine and Cedar Hills, we were like the next highest user of the bookmobile.
Really?
Yeah, so all the other small towns and other places they stop, we have like a higher, like patron use
They also have public
than
libraries.
the other stops.
And if it was advertised more, because they did advertise it for
Well,
a while,
they
really
go to
well,
places
and
that don't
then-
have public libraries.
It should be like a monthly thing, for somebody in the county just to Facebook it.
So do you want to pay? Are we gonna?
She
come
wants
up
it
with-
free, dang it.
Well,
Well, I'm sitting there thinking, I think I'm just gonna say, why don't we just get with Amazon and see how much they'll give a citywide Kindle reader ultimate you can get for every resident.
Well, I'd be down with
Well,
that.
no, so
Oh, hey,
actually.
that'd be the death knell to all the libraries in the world. Maybe it's time
You
we
know what I mean?
leave instead
No,
of call.
and I actually thought, do we want to talk with Payson City and say, hey, what discount would you give to our residents to get a library card here, and maybe we'd supplement it half? And the residents have to come in here, you know, I don't know, because I figured, I mean, or Salem, or if we wanted to go to a different library, talk to our neighboring cities that have libraries and say,
It takes
Would
all of
you-
our crap.
would you give us a discount?
The only decent
Right,
library
and the
in
city would, the
Spanish.
city would pay half of the family's library
Enrollment
card or
membership.
something, I don't know.
So we can look
I
at
mean,
it.
there's options, right?
Right, I'm looking at it, frankly, I think we'd probably get more mileage out of Salem than we would Payson.
I was thinking Spanish Fork. They have a really good library.
The last time I went
Where
into
do
the
you drive
library
to?
was high school.
Spanish Fork.
It's the best one.
Yeah.
It's $100 a year, right?
I thought it was like $20 a card, but I don't know if they have a family
100
pass.
years.
My wife pays it.
100 for a family or like
Well,
$45 per card. or
So for the
something.
convenience, do we,
Right,
do we,
or
do we do something on the city bill?
But for
People
2,600,
Can't do
that's
that, because they don't have a card at the moment.
260
Bookmobile.
households.
You just go in and,
Oh, you have a library card with the bookmobile.
yeah, can you
Yeah.
control who has it based on who pays on their city bill, and we,
Stop it.
what's it called? Subsidize it,
And we subsidize it,
Yeah.
that may be a way to do it too. We could
Just-
talk with,
subsidize it,
Or they just get the,
right? Then those that use it are benefiting, and those that aren't don't have to pay other than the subsidized amount.
right.
yeah,
So can we look into something like
Yeah,
that?
we can look into that
Something
too.
like required.
I mean, that would probably be through Britain, London.
How would you
and
feel
Utah
about
State.
something like that?
Restate it, so
So if
we
you
still do the bookmobile.
We'll do the bookmobile, but you would pay half and we'd pay half.
The fee, what's the bookmobile fee to have a membership?
Well, it
Well,
would
it's
be,
free right now, but the
it'd be
cost,
based on the $2,800 for
Okay,
but I,
two one-hour stops a month.
68 people have cards, right?
so if you do that, that's about $47 a household if they would pay the
It's like-
100% of the cost.
so it's $41 a household if they were to pay 100% of the cost.
Right.
So if we
Yeah.
subsidized it half, say $20 for a year.
For a year,
$20 per year for the whole family?
yeah.
That's cheaper than driving to
And it comes twice a month.
And if we had more people participate and they knew about it, you might be able to up it to
15.
more visits, or I guess it'd be more time per visit.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to look into something like
books
that,
on
see
it?
if we
Yeah, it's
can.
like-
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
huge
What it's
bus,
like,
yeah, that they have books on. You can reserve them though. You can go
And they'll
online
deliver them.
and you reserve them, and so when they come, they've got them all up for you, and you just pick them up.
So you've got a bigger selection than what's physically on the book, they can bring in.
Uh-huh, yeah,
Where do they stop?
right
Right
here,
here in the parking lot.
Parking lot, that's the only location in Elbridge?
yeah, Wednesdays, 10 to 11, I think.
Wait, kids are in school then?
Well, in the summer, no, that, we stay the same because we do not have a library or a school here. So even in school days, I think our
Mom
stock
has to go
stays
there.
the same.
So what do we want to do with this?
I think we should hold off on it, and I think we should,
Let's let
Who's
Ricky
gonna
take up
find
that
out?
battle.
Well, let's let
Great.
somebody who's passionate about using the library take this up, because it
So,
doesn't matter to me.
I feel
one
like
or the
it's
other.
Brittany, because I'm willing to pay $100 to use Spanish books.
We're not gonna pay anything until you guys decide, until you bring it back.
Well,
Is that
Yeah,
okay? We're not
But I'm
gonna pay?
okay with, I think maybe we should provide something,
This
one
is now
service
in-
one way or another, don't
that's
you?
what I think so. And if we subsidize it, I mean, I think if the parents are using, they say, okay, we paid $20 to have, you know what I mean? And the city subsidizes the other 20.
well, I like the idea of splitting it in half, because then as the user, we get more people involved, then we can increase the time without having to increase our subsidy.
And when you pay for things, you use them more. True.
So I feel like there's nothing that is in my court right now.
How easy would it be to do a survey to the choice of subsidizing the membership with a different city versus a partial payment
That's
with
true.
Elbridge?
Well, Facebook
That way you get
allows
real
surveys.
feedback from people that
Sure,
are,
they will, but not on the kind of page that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could do it on your page.
I have a page.
Well, I thought you and your husband started, that's.
See,
Oh, yeah, Lori, I could, you're right. I'll start it on there.
That only get half the residents.
Well, there's more than just,
You could share, is it?
does anybody feel that does anybody feel this horse is dead yet?
No, I don't. Let's, I think we,
I
I
thought
have
you wanted-
another hour in.
You want us to get to 10?
But,
You want to, what do you want?
Spires.
yeah, 10 and 11.
Do you want to have a discussion with us on this fire sprinkler situation?
Yeah, we can
Let's
have-
do it.
that's fine.
Okay, so my question, are we in the urban area? I mean,
You-
that's, right, do we meet any of those qualifications?
I believe that if you put the work into it and look through the table, we would have areas in our city that would fit into that interface zone.
I think just by virtue of our code, the CE1 and the CE2 zone, or whatever they're calling it now, it may not be the right one, but on the south end, there's no question. I mean,
That's correct.
The
got-
the national definition is a half a mile from undeveloped, or something like that. It's a half a mile. If you're within
Within
half
that-
a mile of forest, right? They have a word.
okay, so that's basically
wild
everything south
And
of Park
and
Drive.
that, and
probably.
that would be considered the urban interface.
But the types of things that you can do are based on the vegetation that's around that residence. If you're in that zone.
Now, I
And you
don't
go
know-
look at the code, the International Wildland Urban Interface Code,
We deal with it up Popple Creek all the time,
right?
and it forces you to put stuff into a house.
Yep.
That will be more money than a sprinkler system.
And so the issue for me is the time and effort to identify, because you have to go through data-driven CRUD and all this junk, right? These areas in our city. For the most part, I think Buck Park fits the definition, and probably east of some street, Salem Hill, or.
Right, I didn't have time to look up what the urban wildlife interface definition is,
So
right?
the thing that's
It's a
tricky.
long.
Yeah, the gist of it is a half a mile to forest.
Okay,
That's
so
the interface zone.
Half a mile to forest land?
Yeah,
With
that's the
half a
interface
mile.
zone.
my reference point is this. Remember the meeting we had with the State Forestry Service
Yes.
and the fire chief and assistant chief and
Is it line of
putting
sight?
together a wildland
It says half a
fire
mile.
protection plan? We have to put together this plan because the state has identified us and said, you are in that area. And if you will put this plan in place, then when you have a fire, the minute your fire chief picks up his radio and calls in and
And
says,
we-
I need assistance,
and we-
then the state's on the hook from that point on fighting the fire. And it's
And
not even a problem.
we've signed that.
Right.
We are a member of that.
So I guess I'm perplexed because the state's telling us on one hand we are, and on the other hand, we're not.
No, this didn't
No,
say we're not.
no.
It
Nobody
just
said
said,
we're not.
it said we
Nobody
can't
said
have
we're
a
not.
blanket
They just said
requirement,
we
we
can't
just
have a
have to
blanket
meet these requirements,
Yeah.
at least one of these requirements.
But it's,
So-
but the state forestry division is telling us we are. To the degree that they're telling us we had to put together a plan because we had to have something there so that we could be in compliance with this other code that then makes the state responsible for fighting our fires if they get out of control here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I
The
mean,
only
if
way-
you took, even if you took the middle of the new houses down in Lower Elk Ridge on the north end, and you did a line of sight from that over to like P Mountain or towards your
I don't
property.
think we're a half a mile, it's further.
Well,
Well, and
But-
different
Sure.
types of
The way
vegetation
they throw-
dictate different types of
So here's the real
issues
thing.
as well.
Why are we having this discussion? Is it, you don't wanna, was it driven by you? I just asked, you.
Royce.
No, I wanna know.
Tell her why we're having this discussion.
Because the homeowners, the building association.
Home front.
Don't blame it all on me.
No, I'm not, I wanna know, cause I
No,
wanna hear
it's-
your
it's-
side of it, do you know what I'm
as
saying?
a
We're sitting here
builder-
saying, this is why they're doing it, I wanna know why you're doing it.
It's more expensive.
It's cost. That's why. Cost
It's
benefit.
cost.
You know, on those twin homes we're building in the new Parkside Code, it's costing us almost $4,000 a unit
Oh, yeah, easily.
aside
Cost
to
my
put
parents
those
money
in.
to put theirs in.
Right, so it's
Right.
$250,000 in that project to install those fire sprinklers that we don't see any value for. And I'm not saying that just from a money standpoint, I'm just saying, we installed fire hydrants. There's a fire station right next to the project. I mean, to us, it seems unnecessary, and it's, my understanding is it's an illegal requirement. That's why I'm here,
So,
interested to see what you guys.
When you have a fire hydrant here, and you've got a house that's starting, there's a fire in a house, how many minutes?
I
Right.
can't debate that with you. All I know is any other subdivision, you know, that we've ever built in doesn't have to have fire sprinklers.
So
and
between
should
the-
have this as
so
any different
between the
one.
times.
Because you haven't built in Elk Ridge, and that's the
Yeah.
difference. We're on
Between
a
the-
mountainside, we're
what?
surrounded by
Hang
forest.
on, between the time of 7 in the morning and 3:30 PM, and we don't have enough of a volunteer fire department during those times to be on scene, and we're now dependent upon the arrival of another fire department, right? That time is critical.
You're about 10 minutes out.
You're about 10 minutes out, so that time is really critical. So when they originally, I talked to Seth about this, and when they originally looked at that, it was less actually about the actual interface zone to the forests, right? But it was more about concern about the time it takes for us to respond to the fire and the benefit that that brings to the resident. Because the reality is that our volunteer fire department, and volunteer fire departments all over the state are struggling like crazy to keep them manned. I mean, we're no different than Logan or any of the other cities. I guess it's the city that's outside Logan, wherever that, I can't remember what it is. Hiram, in those places. Right, from my understanding, and maybe you can correct me, but that was the original, some of the big original
Because
problems.
initially it was only being discussed for the development on the south end of town and out on Goose Nest where they have no fire hydrants.
Right.
But then
And
when
that
they
means
looked at
one of the,
they looked at all of the things that played into this, and they talked about response time and property damage and the cost versus benefit, and the reality of it is, I mean, most of these homes that are being built, because of the modern construction techniques that are employed, they're tight and they're far more flammable than homes were built 50 or 100 years ago. I mean, if you had a similar size home from 100 years ago and you built one same size square footage today with modern techniques, the new one would be burned down before the couch in the old house that was fully involved in flames. I mean, it's that drastic. Yes, I can.
I need data.
Go watch YouTube. There's lots of videos. But the reality of it is, when we put this in place, it was in compliance with the state code. What we have now is, we have 2 state representatives, one that represents Woodland Hills and one that represents Elk Ridge, who sat on the Natural Resources Committee where this went through, and they let it out of committee, and they felt at that point in time, because I've talked to both of them personally, I've got their cell numbers here, you worked with one of them, they felt like they would not have even let this thing out of committee if it in any way harmed these communities. And I'm not just saying that because I think they want to get reelected. I know both of them very well. And it's like, I look at this and I go, you know, maybe we need to define better what we are. When I add on to my house in a few years, so my wife can have her big kitchen, I'm going to have to retrofit my house with sprinklers. That's how strongly I believe in it. I've seen the data. I know how much of a difference it makes. But, you know, one of the things, I mean, I'm in sales. You talk about selling features, advantages, and benefits. If I was selling a house and I could say, you know what? You live in a great community, and now when your kitchen catches fire, you're going to have a couple $1,000s worth of damage instead of half of your house being rebuilt. You can control and mitigate these things. I think I could probably sell that. But, you know, I won't sell ice cream.
But on the flip side,
you know, I mean,
the state legislature
said,
passed it, the governor signed it, and it went into effect on January 1st, right? And we have nothing in our code that calls out the fact that we're either in a wildlife interface zone specifically, or wildland interface zone specifically. And everything else that we've talked about is a moot point.
Sure. So we either
That's reality.
We either get it in our code or we.
That's reality.
Are these twin homes, condos, fourplexes?
These are the
Senior 55
senior
plus.
55 plus.
You have more of a risk because your fire affects 4 neighbors that have contiguous walls, even if they have airspace.
Yeah, but there's so many other fire code type of things that we're meeting. Once again, it's really about what she said is, does the location justify?
and I think it does, Parkside Cove, I
Well,
mean, you've
but
got.
the state says it doesn't, is
Well,
to this
no,
point.
well, he says we can't have a blanket requirement. The state specifically said in here, this does not mean that Elk Ridge City does not meet these other requirements.
Right.
And if they meet these other requirements, then you have to put in a sprinkling
You
system.
have to put a sprinkler
And,
system in, or
you
you
know,
have to change your building.
Where you guys are at,
and
you are positively probably within a half a mile of an urban wildlife interface.
But if you
Parkside Cove, just
instigate
straight up
that
over.
code, he will probably be adding 20% of cost to his construction of his buildings.
That's
They've
what
been
it
doing
costs
for
to be in
years.
Elk
They did
Ridge.
that on my house.
That's
no,
what,
I mean,
no.
like-
What I'm saying is, I mean, there's a lot more goes into it. The urban interface code. I mean, you gotta build your eaves different. You can't be drafting ashes up into your attic. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, non-combustible
Oh, you say that
materials. All of a sudden, you start treated type stuff. It gets into a lot more than just fire sprinkler. Perimeter sprinklers out in the yard to spray. It's actually more to keep a fire from the forest coming into your house. That's
Yeah,
more how
that's-
it's written.
well,
and
if they
so-
want to
so
open
you're
Pandora's
looking-
box,
you're looking
right?
at a
If we go
perimeter,
ahead and put in our
you're-
ordinance that
you're-
we're in an urban wildlife interface and that costs them more now, it's what the cost is to be in Elk Ridge, right? And so if we're gonna fight this fight of make Elk Ridge put in their code, we're in an urban interface, instead of everybody requires sprinklers, and then that's the construction code, that is what it is.
I'm just throwing that out. And
No, and that's good to know, but my point being, right, we just have a blanket statement right now. If these guys wanna fight the fight and say, we don't wanna put it in, and we're technically in an urban wildlife interface area, and then we define that, and then this construction costs go up 20% because they have additional things they have to do, I mean, so be it. That's part of building in Elk Ridge.
Life does it, tradition does it, why can't they do it? I don't disagree with anything you said, so I don't know if anything that you said is true, you know what I mean? I don't
Well, no, I'm
disagree
just,
or agree. Yeah, so
I'm just saying,
yeah.
if that's the case, then that's the case.
Are you ready to spend $20,000 to hire the necessary? Royce isn't gonna do the code writing, I'm not gonna do the code writing. Somebody, you're gonna go and you're gonna hire somebody to come in here and say, we need to draft an ordinance that is in accordance with the code to identify the areas and the types of whatever it is that meet this code, put it in the ordinance form, right? And get that in place. And are you willing to spend the $30,000 to do that? I don't know how much it's gonna cost to get this guy to do it. How much is it gonna cost?
I don't think it'd be that much. I mean, okay, so 10% grade, we're not gonna meet that, except for on Hillside, right? I mean, that's probably the only road that's 10%.
Which is where they are.
Above 10% grade, right? But their road, I think, yeah, that's what I'm just saying, I think it's silly
Is that a complete list?
that they're asking
I mean,
for
did he
this.
say that was a complete list of exceptions?
No.
I mean, I can't believe that volunteer fire department, you know, some other things like that wouldn't play into it.
Well, they, in the state code, they only reference this if you are somehow identify yourself in this
Certain
urban
conditions
Well,
have to be met.
wildlife
when they
zone.
passed the code, they called out specifically certain places, like there was Park City
And Sandy.
and Sandy. That was it. The rest was left alone, and when I talked with Mike McKell and with Mark Roberts about this, both of them said, we made sure that your cities weren't listed because we didn't want you impacted by it. Because you don't have the resources that Park City has or that Sandy City has to deal with these challenges. But it's just.
I mean, right here in the letter, it says, nevertheless, the entire city of Elk Ridge may be within an urban wildlife interface area, and as stated in subsection AI, if so, then Elk Ridge may require fire sprinkler systems in all new residential construction in compliance with the state law. Or, right, or if there's a public water distribution system with fire hydrants does not exist, which would be our goose nest area. Or where road grades are greater than 10%.
That's why I say, so to be fair, I think, we have to get our act together, put together this ordinance that identifies, or however we do it, I don't know how it's done.
We just need to find out what the urban wildlife interface is, and if we already have a thing from the National Forest Service.
Well, it's not the national, it's the state forestry.
Or the state. I mean, we'd need to look at that.
It's defined, I read it, it's defined half acre. Now, at
Isn't
one
there a
point,
map for that?
anywhere in Elk Ridge was within a half acre, but it keeps growing.
Half mile.
Half mile.
So, or a half mile, and so that circle's getting bigger, where you probably don't have to do it.
Right.
My understanding.
I'm just
that
saying,
there's
if
a
you guys
map
wanna go
for
down
this.
if you wanna go down the route of
Delineation.
the urban interface code as a city, it's probably a bad idea.
My understanding, and I've never seen this, once again, I'm not up to speed on the facts, right? But my understanding, the way it was brought to my attention is that this is already delineated. Like, there's a map
That's
that
what
shows this.
Well, if you look at the state
Yeah, I don't know
wild
if there's-
forestry
yeah.
map, which we've had them in here too.
And I don't know if that's the right map, but.
I don't either.
Yeah, my understanding was there is a map, whatever it's called, that delineates
And
what,
I tried
where
to
this
find
line
a
is.
map.
And I don't know where, I haven't seen it, but that's what I
That's
was.
It's listed out in the county stuff, the stuff that is officially county, like.
That's what
Albuquerque
Elmer referred
is
to,
county.
we had them come in, they identified our city as being in the wildland area, and basically told us that we need to sign an agreement for firefighting, right? So that if we had a wildfire, because we're in this zone, right? They identified as being in this zone, that we had to sign this or we'd be responsible to pay for all of the cost to fight a wildfire,
So
right?
so regardless, so let's say you just wiped out your ordinance, right? What's different then? I mean, because there's still codes, right, that say,
So here it is.
there's
It's
still
right there
things
on
that
our
say,
zoning
hey, if you're in this situation, this situation, this situation, you're required to have fire sprinklers, regardless of what your city code says. There's already code in place that says, that requires a fire sprinkler in these 3 or 5 situations.
Right.
So why does Elbridge have a code at all about it, is the question.
So if you.
Well,
Why
before
did
the
they start their
state,
city
fire
code
that
for
one
it? You know what I mean?
before the state changed the code, what has happened here is this. It used to be that the state had their code and we could make our code more restricted to suit our own needs.
Right.
Then the state said, it's not your decision
Yeah.
anymore to make,
Turn
and
that
we're
back.
gonna turn it around and we're gonna tell you how to do your business in your town because we know better than you do.
Right.
And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and that's my
That's
understanding of it as
So-
well.
And-
Okay,
and
so
it-
if you look on the the current Elbridge City zoning map, it has urban wildlife interface area already outlined on it, and you guys are within that area, Parkside Goes.
But I don't know, my question is that the map that is, that the state law is referring to?
No.
Or is that just an Elbridge
Maybe, I
map?
don't
Because if
know.
it's just an Elbridge map, it's, according to what we're talking about,
I
it's
mean,
irrelevant.
They've gone through all the planning stages with this before, and for them to put it on there, I would assume that they met the code and went through the correct procedures to identify this.
Hey, Chris,
But
you
not-
got-
But I don't know.
So it says,
We might know.
you can't just do a blanket code, right? Could the city write an ordinance and say,
2.
fire sprinklers are required
And how you
in,
gonna set the bill?
and then they have their own things?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Would that be a workaround? It's not a blanket code, and then the city has its own ordinance, meet this. I mean, within reason, I'm sure the city could list some stuff. I mean, and just rewrite the ordinance that way.
No, it
I
would
mean, I think
be,
fire sprinklers are a good idea. I mean, first off, make sure insurance rates go down and justify it. But, I mean, I don't have it in my house, because when I build it,
I don't have it in mind.
I've
So-
seen it in mine.
So they're saying it's a blanket
I
requirement.
have.
I've been here 23 years.
Yeah, 14.
What about those others who had to put up, I mean, we paid $5,000 to put it in our house. And the problem is, we have heard horror stories that when these things malfunction, that water in those lines is really bad. It stinks, it's really
not
bad.
water.
Yeah, it's not water. And it ruins things. I got a Steinway Grant sitting in the front room with a sprinkler right above it. If that sprinkler goes off, I'm gonna be stuck $60,000 replacing that. So it's not a couch or two that's not go. Some of us have some things that are worse than real money. This is my 401k plan.
But if you had a fire start in that same room.
Your fire
Your toast.
insurance is gonna cover it.
Your homeowner's insurance will
You're-
cover it, because my brother's just broke and hit his BMW, brand new BMW, and it's going to be covered by homeowner's insurance.
I mean, nobody wants to have to go down that path, right? Nobody wants to do it. We're certainly not trying to say, boy, we want to put sprinklers in so we can ruin your sofa in a leak, right?
But if
That's
there's
not our
reasons to
intention.
do it, write the ordinance, list out the reasons,
That's
and if somebody doesn't fall into that, they don't need it.
Right, no,
I agree, the
that's
blanket
what I'm
ordinance is a
saying.
bad thing all the way around.
So that, yeah.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
just-
right, and I mean, that's what the state said we can't do,
But
but
I think
it's
the
very
reality
clear that
is
part of our
this
city
gentleman
does
may
fall
not,
in.
I mean, he's probably still gonna be required to put in.
So how does that work for him while we're writing the ordinance? He goes with the old one?
Well, basically what's happened right now is the state has superseded our ordinance.
Unless we, right?
So basically what we have is in violation of the state law,
Yeah.
right? I feel,
Is
is
there
in
any-
violation of the state law in the current
Is there,
form.
I mean, it come from the abutment, I mean, is there?
Unless we're
is there
in
a-
that zone,
Can you
right?
appeal that?
And we need to replace that
It's-
ordinance with one that
Is there
addresses
a
this
period
specific.
of,
No, it's just an opinion, it's an advisory opinion. And so there's no,
Yeah, it
it's
is
not
an
a court
advisory.
rule, it's nothing, it's
Okay.
just an advisory opinion. There's no legal status to it.
Well, I say you get rid of the blanket.
It's back on us. It's on us to either let these people build without sprinkler
Trying to get me
systems,
to like you, so I'll vote on that.
or
It's working.
The reality is the city council needs to pull that ordinance out or modify it.
Yeah, we just need to modify
the way it is right now, I don't think it would pass muster. I think they could just
We just need to.
Don't take
Well, we don't wanna,
build without it.
we obviously don't wanna, and I'm sure the other builders that are building right now don't want to have a serial relationship with the city or the city inspector or any
So-
of that.
And I've thought a lot about that kind of issue, and we're a small city, we have no legal staff at all, zero. We can call David Church
I
once
don't know
in a
what you're talking
while.
about, we got Brittany.
We can call David Church once in a while, right? So we do our best to do what we think is right for the city. Certain people come in, certain residents come in, they assimilate well, they don't really question it, and I'm not blaming people for questioning it, don't get me wrong. They assimilate in and we go on our merry way. And then we have somebody come in and they say, well, hold it. The state just put into play something that supersedes your code, right? And now we want to change, right? And it's like, well, hold it. The purpose behind the code in the first place was to protect property and life of the citizens, right? That was our intention in the first place. So does this code nullify that intention? And it doesn't nullify the intention at all, right? But but there's no legal standing at the moment, I feel, that we have to force them into sprinkler systems. Because of the state has basically said, unless you've identified this probably specifically in an ordinance and called it out, that our ordinance doesn't work any longer. So they're coming in and saying, well, we want to be nice people, but we don't want to spend the money.
General
And
philosophy is if somebody wants.
And they're in the right, in a way.
If somebody wants a fire sprinkler system, we are more than happy to put it in for them. It's kind of like what Councilman Abbott said. He's planning on putting it in his house. He has every right. There's no ordinance that says he can't do it. There's nothing from us that says we won't do it. If they
But you'll never do it, and nobody will retrofit it.
Because, and that's my point I was getting to is the people that are buying these houses don't see the benefit of it. They don't want to pay for it.
Right. They don't see the benefit. Till one burns.
Because they've
Why
not
isn't
lived
that
here.
their decision?
Right.
Why are we trying to force them to
Because it
spend money that
protects
they don't want to spend?
because it protects them and the homeowners, because a lot of people don't realize until they move here, right? I mean, it's the same thing in when they went to a unified fire system up in Salt Lake, and there's people that didn't want to buy into it, and they said, then you're not gonna be covered.
House burns.
Right,
But
which
that's-
is great
you're all
until your
right.
house burns. But that's not great when it's a twin home and your neighbor doesn't want their house to burn down and you don't wanna pay for it, so you're gonna burn your house down and your neighbors.
Yeah, but that's over policing, in my opinion. I mean, that's what they buy fire insurance, for hazard insurance is for, just like 99% of the houses in this state. That's what it's for. You know, that's their. Why are you trying to police to that extent? I guess.
Well,
is
no,
the question.
because their actions affect their neighbors, and right? And that's why we have rules. And some people don't understand the effect that their actions have on their neighbors until they've burnt their neighbor's house down. And then they go, oh, I guess maybe I should have paid for a fire sprinkling system. And that's why we have a rule.
I'll give you
It's
another,
ordinance.
I'll give you another, I mean, we're not gonna win this. If you want my honest opinion, tonight, you can go and build houses without fire sprinklers because you can bring a lawsuit against us. I'm telling you the truth,
Right.
right? You can do it. And you can say, we have no interest in assimilating into the intent of the city, of what the council's trying to do. We have no legal justification in my mind right at the moment to force them to put fire sprinklers in.
Yeah.
None. State code has superseded our ordinance, state statute. That's what they've done. We have to react, spend some money, go get ourselves a $20,000 person, which the city can't afford, right? Because it's not like we have deep pockets. We have no pockets, right? So
We can't
it's
even
up to
afford a
us.
bookmobile.
Do we scrape up, forget the bookmobile, are we gonna scrape up 20 grand, put a code together, get it passed, and then start sprinklers again? Or are we gonna let them go build? But I'm telling you, if you've lived here for very many years and you've seen this mountain burn, or you've seen the mountain just above you, the gully catch on fire, and you've got tankers flying over your head, the last thing you want to do is have one single spark escape your house in the summertime, because this mountain will go. And I've lived through 3 of them. And it is, July and August are the worst months of the year. I hate snow. July and August are the worst months of the year in Elk Ridge. But there's nothing we can do about it. But our intent is to protect the beauty of the area and the residents. And that's why the code was put there in the first place. So there is good justification for the code. Sure. I think the state screwed up royal. To take that opportunity for our city to control our own destiny, right, in a responsible way from us for the sake of $4,000 on a $400,000 house or a $300,000 house.
Which tells me the price has come down almost in half, because it
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be 2%.
Whatever it is.
It was,
That's how I feel about it as the mayor. My hands are tied. I can't do anything. I would spend $20,000 or $25,000. I'd find it somewhere to go find a lawyer that can help us draft the code that meets the international building or the fire, whatever it is, so that from here on out we can continue to operate the city in the fashion that we feel best for the protection not only of the residents, their property, but our hillside. That's how I've expressed it.
Because that would be a lot cheaper when you get the wrongful death lawsuit from a senior citizen that bought the home and says, oh, you changed your code just because they wanted to save $4,000. Why'd you do that? You put my life at risk just to accommodate a builder?
I'm gonna send him right over here.
But we gotta be real.
No,
The state's done it, and
No, you're right, but you're right.
our
Your
intentions
rights
are not to
end
go
where
to
someone
court
else's
against
begin.
the state.
And if my house catches on fire and catches yours on fire, then I don't have that right. Like, my right ends where yours begin. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, yeah, they do. I don't have the right, I can swing in the air all I want, but once I'm hitting you, I don't have the right to do that.
Probably half of our city to the north, though, is not in a real hazardous.
No, they're typical. They're just basically a bit of a hillside, so you have a little bit, but.
So, okay, so hold on.
I want to get a hold of the map that they showed us in that meeting, because that was an official map.
No, it was.
And
It was.
Yeah, so let me just tell you, so it says, because I'm just reading directly from the state code, okay? An authority having jurisdiction over a structure built in accordance with the requirements of the International Residential Code. So this is saying Elk Ridge City, right?
Yeah.
Having over houses, and we do follow the International Residential Code, as adopted in the state construction code, may require an automatic fire sprinkling system for the structure only by ordinance, which we do require, and only if any of the following conditions exist. So if we are located in an urban wildlife interface area, then they are required to put them in.
So we need to find out if they
Because we
are.
currently
Who
require it,
defined that, though?
and
Is that-
if
is
this
that the
is
state
met,
map?
this
Who's
is,
that?
well, so this is the state code. So what I'm saying is, if we currently require it, if we meet any of these things, even if it's not, it looks like it doesn't even have to be delineated in our ordinance according to the state statute. As long as we meet one of these things, we can require it.
But do you have to adopt the
What are those
urban
things?
interface?
What if only,
No, that's what she's saying. It
That's what I'm
doesn't say
saying,
that.
it doesn't
It doesn't
say that. It just says you can require it if you meet one of these conditions. But it doesn't say the condition has to be codified in your ordinance.
I think that's my understanding too, is that by state code, once again, that's why I don't understand why Elk Ridge needs a code. The state code already covers who should and should not have a sprinkler system. So why even bother with it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well,
As
that's
a city.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, as the city, I mean, kind of the discussion we've had today, from what I've heard, is probably when the state fire came in and the Forest Service and identified Elk Ridge as being in an urban wildland interface area, that's probably when they put the code in, just to require everybody to have it because we meet this definition. Now, that may have been Elk Ridge as it was in 2008 when it was adopted, right? And that doesn't consider the north end. It may have considered the north end. It may have looked at the boundaries. I don't know. I
Sounds
wasn't
like we
here in
just need to get this
2008.
map. I wish we could
Yeah,
find
that's what
that.
I'm
It's
saying.
online.
We probably
Yeah,
need
and
to-
it's like, I can find it for every state except for Utah. There's an Elbridge in Washington, Oregon, Colorado.
I've never seen it either. Arizona, I'm not
They came and get this whole presentation.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
were here for
and
like.
I'll
2
tell you,
hours.
if we're within the map, we're gonna put fire sprinklers in. We wouldn't try to do anything else.
So it.
You're just trying to question it because you're like, if I don't have to.
It was brought to my attention that this
Listen, I
passed.
get that.
It
I'm
was-
not
yeah,
judging you
and-
for that. I do the
and-
same thing
yes.
in your
Well,
situation.
And when it was passed, we got absolutely zero input from any builder, any developer, anything.
Until they.
And then once it was in place, we had the Utah Valley Home Builders and every contractor that I think could ever build a house anywhere in Utah showed up. We filled this entire room with contractors that were just ticked that they weren't gonna be able to sell a house. And I'm sitting there going, I mean, now I'm looking at it going, I don't think that was the case because we're building houses faster than pacing.
Do you remember when they came in and presented to us?
It was in October of.
And that started that whole discussion of the wildland.
2000.
It wasn't last year.
Yeah, it was.
It was just.
No, it was right after you became mayor. And
It was.
we were the only ones, you weren't here.
Okay, it was just.
It was,
it
no, it was myself,
say,
I was there
remember
because I'm on the
this at
fire
all.
department. And Ty, and we had state forestry,
It was in
and
October.
assistant chief,
2016.
and the state forestry person.
Did he
Was it
email you
state
that?
They did that in the fire, you did that in the fire station? Is that-
No, we met
Oh, right
here,
here.
because they used the projector, because they had maps and everything they were shooting up there.
Gave us the website and everything.
Yeah, we lost
did.
that, huh?
Hey, Brittany, quick question.
council meeting?
If they
No.
change the code, is it a possibility that Arrive and Traditions could sue the city for reimbursement for these unnecessary expenses in the past? I mean, that's what I would do if I was a builder.
Anything built after
Absolutely.
January 1st.
So you have to look 20 grand, so it's still a lot cheaper than some lawsuit from Arrive and everybody else.
Sure, you bet. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, we have to reimburse the cost of those.
Yeah,
Way to bring
so
that up,
I-
William.
Especially if you've got a map to justify
CYA.
it. Done deal, move along.
Well, you can remove the ordinance and say, look, by via this other
But we-
means, it's still
I think
required.
we need the ordinance, though. I think,
Well, you modify the ordinance to say, according to, this map.
Yeah, I mean, if we're in the, my
You need to
concern
reference
was
the listed conditions.
having the expertise and the time to create the map that shows this based on the types of fuel and the distance to it. That would be an undertaking that Elbridge would have to,
Well, you'd have to maintain that.
and then we have to maintain it.
Because
It would be a
you're
financial
growing.
burden on us to generate it and to maintain it, right? If the state's done it for us, then it becomes a no-brainer for us,
Yeah,
right?
don't bring it up.
Honestly.
All we need to do is change the ordinance though to list the conditions to meet the state.
And I think you still fall under it.
All
but
we
then we
want
have
to
the
do is,
state backing to
all we
support
want to do
what-
is
Look at
amend
me,
the
I'm not a lawyer.
ordinance. All we want to do is amend the ordinance to list the conditions required by the state. Right, you also have those weird.
'Cause then it's not a
if
blanket
you're
statement.
more than 10,000 square feet, or you're bigger than double the houses next to you, I mean, there's other,
Yeah, right. all those
right?
things.
We would just want to list those in the ordinance, just add them to the ordinance, that's all we need to do.
Shay,
Utah County, so basically the state code has required the county to put together a map based on section 302, but I cannot find section 302 anywhere. I look in the Utah Administrative Code, and 302 is not anything to do with fire protection. And that's where that requirement's from, but it doesn't tell where. But Utah County in chapter 9, Article 9.6 has wildland interface areas, and they state in there, urban interface shown in Appendix A, but Appendix A isn't online. So.
Well, we can find that.
So
We can do that,
I
right?
guess what I'm saying is let's see if we can find that, because as I'm looking this up, I'm finding it for Sanpete County, Iron County, all these other
Yeah,
counties.
everything
have
but Utah
a
County.
map. But when I go into Utah Coundy,
Maybe they're
I'm not.
revising.
I'm not
It's okay, they
finding-
took that money and put it towards the bookmobile instead of putting it online.
Who'd you pay off?
But with that
We should
forty-seven
go work in the balance.
So our intentions are not to do away with the requirement for a sprinkler system. Our intentions are to properly justify our position so that we are in compliance with state code.
Yeah, we
And
need to do that.
or to ensure that we are in compliance with state code.
We just need to amend our ordinance.
But if we aren't, when we find that we're not, right?
Then we
So
back down.
can we just put that on our next agenda, to amend that ordinance and just list?
Are you gonna do the research and find out the map, or is someone going to? Don't
Why do we
need
have to
that?
do an ordinance if it's already the state?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now the state's addressed it for us.
The state's already.
It's done.
The
They
state's
never
already
addressed
said
it
this,
for
why
us
you
till
waste our
now.
time on doing it?
Well, no, what I'm just saying is, just amend our ordinance where it says all houses required, and just say houses required if
It
you meet
means-
any
yeah.
one of these conditions.
Yeah, that's what she
Blank.
said, then we're in compliance with
That's what
it.
this says. It says the same thing.
No, all
No,
I'm
the
saying
city,
is,
what the city said, what they say there.
No,
is
we
the
have a
city-
blanket one.
The city cannot become more
restrictive.
restrictive, basically,
So,
but they don't actually set code for the city.
all I'm saying is, we take those conditions,
I don't think.
and we just, instead of saying all houses, if you meet any one of these conditions, and then just list them out. That's all we need to do for our ordinance to be in compliance.
Okay.
But we could just put that on next agenda and approve it.
Well, the map is missing from the
Yeah,
state's
the thing is,
website.
We need to get a hold of the map.
We gotta have the map.
Well,
before we make any decision.
No, you
Come-
can put that in your
come-
ordinance, and then if somebody wants to know if they're within the what urban
But don't you
wildlife
think we ought to
area.
know if we're in
then
that
you-
area before we
Well, then
tell these
they're
guys
gonna
to
say,
go out
you
with
need to bring the
sprinklers?
map.
Well, no, we
Yes,
need to know,
of
but I'm
course we
saying we
do.
can amend the ordinance without that, because
Oh, yes, we can.
parts of our city are gonna be in it regardless.
That's true.
Parts of
So we can make the amendment to the ordinance, and then we need to track down the map, so when
Nelson's
people
on
come in
that.
and say, am I in this area, we can say yes or no.
But if you're in that area and you're taking that stance, you have to adopt the urban interface code. That's the thing I'm saying. It's kind of a double-edged thing here. You're gonna have 20% to all the builders around here. If you find that Elk Ridge is found within that, you're gonna use that as an exception.
Heaven forbid we slow down the rate of growth.
I'm just,
You make a run out of that.
Just saying, okay.
This is why I
Not
just.
about it, discretion. Actually,
If you need to go.
I've got-
So Mayor, where does that put us
Few
going
minutes,
forward
I'd like to
for now then?
address at least one.
I mean, once again, we want to be good neighbor, we don't want to be lawsuit neighbor. But to his point though earlier, the deeper this goes, the more liability builds up and, you know what I mean, that's the problem that I see for the city. To his point, and I'm a small builder in town, you know, there's plenty of, there's lots of other permits
How
we
many
hold.
permits, how many sprinkler systems have gone in since January, right? So, let's say there's 70 times 4, that's $210,000.
It's gonna be more than that, because we're building small little houses. We're building, 1,600 square foot units, most people are building double.
So, we'll just file bankruptcy.
I'm not,
you are, right?
I would never threaten that, but
You have.
what we appreciate is just
Right.
expediency on the issue. We don't want, I've got 2 houses that are ready to move forward, that we stopped at 4-way, that we're sitting here thinking, I don't want to spend that money on those fire sprinklers, so I've got the houses on hold.
But
know
you
what I
can
mean?
see our
Yeah, oh,
quality.
definitely, yeah.
Well, and that's what
We
I'm
say
saying.
go, and then all of a sudden we're not in this, you're gonna come back and get your money. We don't have the money.
Right.
Well,
That's what I say. Our city works only because the residents are willing to assimilate without the legal fights. As soon as it becomes a legal fight, our city doesn't work because we're so small and we're a bedroom community and our pockets are drained already. Right? That's the reality of Elk Ridge. That's the reality of other small cities. Is that you can come in and you can just almost threaten a lawsuit and you get us so scared we have to capitulate. Because we can't afford any of it.
But to be clear, I'm not threatening a lawsuit, but he
No.
does make an interesting point
No, I
about
agree.
all the past permits.
No, I
You know what
agree.
I mean, I'm not doing that. I haven't built enough
I
for that
agree.
to be justifiable for me, for example.
So it's a little precarious on,
Right.
as you can tell,
Right.
right? It's a little precarious for us because we firmly believe that fire suppression in a home like that is a wise choice in this area. But on the other hand, if we get 70 people come in and ask for their $5,000 back, we're toast.
Right.
So I guess I asked the question again, do I have to put fire sprinklers in by these houses going forward until somebody shows me otherwise, or?
I think it'd be wise, I'll just be honest. Don't you?
I don't know what to say. David
You
Church
can't tell
said,
him.
David Church said, well, apparently the state knows better than you on this, basically, didn't he?
So, but we are trying to be efficient, that's why I said next meeting, let's have it on our
He's
agenda
held up right now.
to change the ordinance, that's 2 weeks.
He's
You know what I
held
mean?
I would wait 2 weeks. Once again, I'm not trying to,
I'd like to resolve it.
Yeah.
If we can get 2 weeks on this and we can resolve it one way or the other, I think.
That's what I'm saying, if we get 2 weeks.
I don't wanna not put them in if somebody shows me that I should have put them in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's worth, just like you, getting the bottom of this, sorting it out is worth another 2 weeks to me.
Okay, and if you're willing to do that, I think we can track down the map in that amount of time, and then the next meeting, we can make the ordinance adjustment to make our code be in compliance with the state law.
Does
We've
this
got to have,
require
a-
a-
we've got to have public
Public
hearing.
hearing, that's what I was gonna say.
The ordinance,
Yeah, to do it, to adopt, and then.
Well, we could-
but if we can
But we
find the
can track
map,
down the map.
we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can just tell me, hey, it looks like you're in this or you're not, then we can move forward regardless of
Right,
this ordinance.
yeah.
right,
You know,
but then, yeah,
Right.
because the
Do that
ordinance
2
would be,
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he just gives us 2 weeks to find the map.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find the map.
Allison said-
You guys can just keep
Well, I
talking.
apologize.
You need a
because,
bigger, you need
I
a
mean,
bigger
this is
computer
a,
than that.
I do, I
This one's faster
apologize from
than
a
the
city perspective because we knew this, we knew, we were not, I was unaware that this was going through the state legislature, period. Had no clue, zero. Shows up on our doorstep, says, hey, guess what? You guys are screwed up, right? And I said, well, hold it. How do we try to address this in a reasonable way, right? And so we talked to the lawyer and whatnot, and we're sitting here going, unless there's an easy out, it's gonna cost the city $20,000-$30,000 to solve this. And I'm willing to go and say, guess what? Property taxes are gonna go up, right? Because we're stand strong on sprinkler code and we've been challenged.
Why does it cost the city anything though, just to eliminate the ordinance? Because, once again, falling back on, there's already a state ordinance. The city theoretically doesn't need an ordinance on this issue
No,
at all.
that's fine if that's how it works. I'm not a legal guy to say
I
that's
think,
how it
I
works.
think we have to have it in our code in order to enforce it.
I do too.
I think quite frankly, in a few years, the state will just tell us their code's our code and it won't matter anymore.
I probably
Oh,
agree.
man, I just pray for that.
Everything.
Just because we deal with so many, everybody's codes.
Well, you're the
all
food
over
truck
place.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Right?
It's hard to keep up on it, honestly.
Right.
You know?
But
not
that's
your
where they're
problem.
working.
Oh, yeah.
They might as well just close us down, I think, just take over Elbridge.
Yep. That's what's gonna pay the bills.
Well, I don't understand why it's just not, hey, you have to meet the International Building Code.
Well,
Here's a stamp that says
so-
you do.
So there's a
We do
challenge
have
here.
that.
When this was adopted, at that point in time, the International Building Code was going to require fire sprinklers in all houses by 2016. That was where it was going, and then the state thumbed their nose at the International Building Code and said, we're not going to adopt that version. This is how I had it explained to me, that we're not going to adopt this new version, we're going to stick with the current version, and then, money talks at our state legislature.
Well, trust us, we're trying to, we've already taken it seriously, but the fact of the matter is staffing just doesn't allow us to focus on everything at the same time.
So I can just
Right.
keep in touch with Royce. And
So keep in
within
touch.
2 weeks, we should kind of all be on the same page.
We hopefully in 2 weeks we can be on the same page.
And thank you
One
for
way or
being
the other,
patient with
'cause
us as well, so.
I'm absolutely agreeing with you that this has got to come to a resolution, right? We cannot drag this out.
We appreciate that. I hope you appreciate that. We want to have
Of
a good
course,
relationship.
I'd be
with the city.
sitting in your chair doing the same thing
Yeah.
probably.
I just like to, that's why I asked you, because I'm like, I wanna know, let's just talk about it, right? Not
Well,
just
I'm
beat
not
around.
sure honestly how it came up at an HBA meeting about various code changes and things, and somebody had mentioned it, and anyways, that's
Right.
how it all came about.
I would've done the same
Yeah.
thing. I think
All
you
I
know
can
this
say
one.
Well, the
is
thing
your
is, we don't have
lobbyists
a
do a
full-time
phenomenal
staffer
job
that-
protecting your interests.
That's right.
I mean, they do.
They
I
do.
mean, almost every change that gets
All right.
handed to us from the state is because your lobbyists go in and lobby better for you than the League of Cities and
How much
Towns
you
does
pay
for
your
us.
obviously you're.
You,
lot.
you have our word that we'll be diligent in going forward on this to resolve it. So,
Costs a lot of money. This must be a heck of a.
one way or the other. One way or the other.
It's almost 10.
Roundabout
It's
apron.
10, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll see you.
Sorry to keep you here all night
No, no, it's
long.
okay.
Roundabout apron.
We need that
Get an
stuff.
update on that, from McKinney.
Yeah.
We said.
So the roundabout apron, this is the southwest side of the roundabout. So as you're coming up Elk Ridge Drive, it would be the one
On our property.
on our property, essentially, yeah, right there on our
It's got all
corner.
the
We
buttons.
What's going on is the trucks go over it.
We talked
we
about filling
talked-
that in.
Yeah, we've talked about filling it in with concrete. Another option would be filling it in with road base and letting development take care of it later down the road.
Right.
Cost of concrete, you're looking at about 2,500 to 3,000 to have it done. That's with us doing the prep work, would be on the low end, the 2,500 if we leveled it out and did all the grading and then just had somebody pour it. And that all depends too on how wide you go. If you go with an 8-foot width, kind of like what we have on the other sides of the apron, the other sides of the roundabout, you're looking about that price. If you go with 6 foot, you're obviously less. You're about $4 a foot there. I don't have that's as I've talked to CJ Concrete, that's kind of the quick rough estimate. I didn't know what direction we want to go with this. If we want to do concrete, if we want to fill it in with road base, a couple loads of road base, fill it in, bring it up to grade. So then they come over it, they run over a road base instead of the curb and have the.
But when road base gets wet and sloppy, it
I think we just
can
do it right,
deteriorate
don't you?
quickly.
Let's
and-
do it, let's do it and do it right.
Where we get the money?
That was my concern with it. That's why I came up with the road
Wait,
base
can we
idea.
use
Was just
any
because
impact fees on this?
No,
It's new, it's a new road. Right?
no. We can use some of Dell's trail money though.
Yeah, you could just, yeah, trail money.
What about some of the money that Dean is giving us for the lampposts?
What do we have other ideas for that
That's
as
all
well?
part, isn't it?
You know, there's another piece in here, parking lot, pavilion.
No, we need that.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
So, okay, so, what, does
We
council
have the
wanna
money.
spend the 2,500 if we can find it somewhere?
Don't we
I
have
think
it
so.
in savings?
And in the roads, we probably, you know, and I this would.
Yeah, I'm not saying we can't.
We'd have.
Listen, that beats the heck out of someone getting stuck in the middle
Well,
of
I'm
the winter
amazed
and
that the most, the corner that has, that's easiest to navigate is the one we're having the problems with.
I know.
I mean, that one's like a free right-hand turn. If all the other corners were like that, that'd be an awesome roundabout to drive.
Yeah,
through.
right.
It's basically a straight shot right through there. I don't
Sure
know why
is.
we're
Yeah.
having.
I still don't know why some people don't understand how the roundabout works yet, so.
Okay,
So,
Can't
It's
even-
usually bigger
what
trucks.
do we? What do you think?
we'll put it, see if this is over 2,500, we have to have council approval, right? So we'll put it on the agenda next time and get approval for it, that we want us to do.
We want to
guys?
go.
I know what Dell
I would
wants.
like to.
I think we need to do it.
Okay, let's put it on next
Okay.
And I think it
council.
needs to be done
I
right.
think you've got it in. road.
Accordingly, I will pull 3 bids for this
Perfect.
job and have those ready for next city council. meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
I just need to know what direction. you
Brittany
want
will
to go.
kill you.
And we need to just find
Right,
a
Brittany?
place to,
Gotta have the bids.
Yep. So,
okay, we'll do it.
Just get them done before. so
We're
it's
good.
best
Parking lot
to do it
pavilion,
Then we know.
Don't need it.
down there.
right. Okay,
So-
I've been over here, pipe down, leave it.
The parking lot, I think we had a bid to pave that
We used the land money with that.
63K,
64,000.
64K.
Land
Yeah,
money.
63 and some change, kind of right around in there.
And then and we were gonna fund this out of half impact fee or whatever the ratio
And
is.
then have lamp money, right?
Right. Well,
No,
No?
it has to come out of, I don't know where the
Yeah, I
other.
think that part.
Savings?
Came out of savings, because we
Well,
planned
Yeah,
on the
because you drew it out here,
border.
yeah.
Half of it would come
It
out
was
of
one-time
savings.
money.
One-time money.
Is this just the parking lot, but I thought it was also
are we
the,
able to use the lamp?
This is not the scale.
this isn't the scale, but,
We're ready to get traction on this.
Yeah.
so we're just doing the parking lot, we're not
Good
doing
to
the
do it
pavilion too?
before,
That was a bid for the parking lot, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's part
Is
of
that
How do you
designed
feel
at
about
all,
the
or
pavilion?
that is just one big open?
So what it is,
parking lot?
east to west, you're 145 feet, north to south, you're 125 feet running from the trail existing to
Over
that
to the
6-inch
boundaries.
water line. So So it's kind of your, everything grading, sloping towards the northwest corner to where we would put a storm box in, which the storm box that's existing right here off Skyhawk, if you look at the picture, we've already put that in and then ran the line down to the retention basin. So stormwater and everything would be taken care of with that line that we've already ran. So it would be, that would kind of, everything would kind of grade to that northwest corner. So it is designed, curbing going around it to delineate between, obviously, the...
What we, originally, we talked also about the handicap parking on the other side of the street plus the pavilion, right?
Right.
Which I think we need to do as well to make that
This is
area
just
functional.
the one thought I had as far as in preparations for the pavilion. We've got to get somewhere for these people to park down there because it's getting ridiculous.
It's already bad now.
Yeah,
You guys can't even
it's-
get
we
in,
can't
there's
even
so
get
many
in.
people.
I mean, they'll just line those
Really?
Parking
both
on
sides of the
roads.
road, all the way down.
almost every
You know,
day.
if there's soccer games or anything like that going on, you can't even. So pavilion would just magnify the problem.
Right.
You
We gotta get
know,
the parking in.
We got to get the parking lot in.
Could we do the parking and the parking on the other side where the handicap would be that kind of a project and then do the pavilion at a later date? Or do we want to try to wrap it all together in one?
I would kind of suggest we do the handicap parking and pavilion as one project.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
We'll just do the.
That'd be more
Next year.
Now?
Yeah, north parking, then the south.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
To do what?
If we.
No,
do
you
the
have to
handicap on
address
the
the
other side,
handicap parking, right?
We
That's
have
what
to
I'm
address
saying,
it,
when
so
we
if
do
we
a
don't,
parking lot.
even if we're gonna do the other across the street,
Then you put a sign up and then you take it and move it to the other one when we need it, no?
Can we,
well, we're gonna be under a 14% grade.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. That's what we're under.
As far as
what day?
Your grades may be the problem. I don't know how the parking is.
So I think we're just getting a feel of the wind here from the council. Are you okay if we kind of get serious about
It's the
this?
same as saying a woman can't.
Yeah, I think we need to have.
Dale and
I think there's other projects in
That's
the
all I'll
city,
say.
especially roads that need to be worked
So,
on, then
It needs to
additional
be
parking lot.
ADA compliant.
Well, these aren't,
But I
it
feel like
isn't either or.
a lot of that
though.
money that the city's taken for not putting that parking for Dean or whatever he's given us installments, right? That was supposed to go to bettering
Yeah,
the
there's
park.
money there,
No,
there's
it's
money
supposed
there
to go to
to
the
build
city
that.
park.
Why? Because it's used by the residents down there. It was their park.
No,
that
it
they
was,
paid.
it was to go to build the new park.
The new
at
park.
Where
So,
we have our
City's
gravel pit.
property. So,
no.
It goes up here?
no.
We have
not
more
this-
than
no.
double
The
the.
gravel pit.
No, not this
The gravel
gravel, the
pit.
gravel pit.
The gravel
Anderson
pit. It
House,
was
the red brick
for all the
house.
park there.
Where I want to put our new building.
But now we're not
That means
building
that's
that
saying you
park.
can park here, but you can't.
And what about the lamp money that should have gone to like the trails
Or we'll
there? Like,
provide
I'm just
services
saying,
through
like,
here, but not
there's all
there.
these
there's
things that
money.
people were
Silver
supposed to
rights.
get, and then
That's
they're
how the
not.
parks are looking.
And
Yeah,
I
that
feel
money-
like this is one of the most used things in the city. Literally, ask McKay, there are so many people at that park every
We have
day.
we have a, because it's so used, I think we have a real safety concern where you've seen on the news lately, somebody just
runs
jets out from a car parked on the road, and somebody goes tootling along at 25 miles an hour, boom, kids hit, gone.
You have to
We
think
can
about
afford-
around it.
We can afford to get all that traffic off of there
Yeah,
if we
Are we
build that
putting a
parking
crosswalk in there?
and a crosswalk.
I'll have to paint a crosswalk in.
I mean, if
But
you
half
put
of it's
the
impact
parking
fees.
lot on the north side, you've gotta have your
Right,
crosswalk.
we would have a crosswalk there. But I think it really is incumbent upon us to address this because of that.
Yeah,
I would
so
hate to
we'll
see
be
something happen.
getting the bids on that, and that, by next,
Across the street
we need to
from
get 3 bids on that.
Yeah, we have
We'll
to.
be on the other side.
You need to.
I just don't wanna waste
Yeah, until it
time
gets
if
too.
we're not gonna do it. I mean, even as it sits right now with Bert, with RB is the one that I have the bid from right now, he's looking at not having time to do it till spring. The window for paving is closing fast.
Yeah,
October
Summer's
15th
over.
will be here before more.
Yeah.
So, summer's over.
I would ask the council to go ahead and
Let's move ahead.
Move ahead with
Bids and
this.
let's see
Well,
where
Dale
we're
and
at.
I are pushing. It's right above my
No, we
house, so
got
I would really
one,
like to see it go
yeah.
in.
we get these bids in and look at them.
Also in that savings, you know.
Okay, then maybe we need to do the
Lots of
handicap
one-time
parking
fees.
too, if that's not gonna work for
Well,
handicap.
Oh,
We just
until the south side parking lot goes in.
Yeah, but what if they won't allow us on that side to park on the handicap, or will they? What were you saying, it might not?
What's the ADA requirements? for
Yeah,
You have to have a
that's
certain
not
number of handicap stalls
And the
based on
grade.
the total number of stalls.
Okay, but I'm saying the grade and stuff in that parking lot, are we gonna be okay?
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's
no
flat.
great. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
It's
flat.
really flat.
So then let's just put them in over there, yeah.
Well, and you can put them, I mean, really what you ought to do is you gotta put handicap parking on both sides.
You have,
Yeah.
That's true.
So you'll have to do that, so that would be the right way to do it, is do both ADA ramps on the north side, ADA ramps on the south side.
Yeah.
And so even if they drop off, or, you know, if they drop a wheelchair off on the south side, then they can park in a handicap spot on the north side. You know, just kinda, so a few of those,
Yeah, I agree.
few of those spots would have to be
Yeah.
reserved
Okay.
for.
Let's get the bids.
Let's do it.
Okay.
And then we'll have
Let's see.
more frisbee golfers.
Yeah.
One other thing there that I mentioned briefly to you that we'd have to make a decision on fairly quickly. I had an email from the state foresters, if we wanted to get a grant, it's a matching grant, to do a tree planting project. And the area that I think it would be the most practical is to talk to the school district to see if they would get this grant and fund the trees down the right-hand side of the parkway. They weren't interested in doing anything until they do something further. But I think that we could look at applying for that grant to do the trees in a drip system down the right-hand side of the parkway. And if the school's 10 years out before they build it, or else we'll say maybe longer if it depending on where those schools go in. It takes 10 years to grow a good shade tree. It'd be a good. My thinking is that would be a good project. I don't know let's see what the council would have to apply by the 23rd of August, so we only have a couple of weeks. But see what everybody thinks on that. What's the rest of the council?
What's our matching amount?
Well, you can apply up to 7,500, I think it is, but you're matched with labor, we've matched
Yeah,
a
let's
lot
get
of it
another Eagle
out.
project going.
That's right, we can do it in kind, right?
Yeah, in kind, and the last two projects we've done, we.
I would like to see that other side.
So if we can get the grant, then we see if we can get a project.
That would be nice to have done. It's a good time to do it, and mature at the same time, and far better.
Maybe apply for the grant and see.
it does not show Elk Ridge, it shows the line.
But I'm on a different map that in the second year will show, like, based on your address if you're in.
So maybe I could ask Stacy, see if she could work up the grant.
I suspect you're okay with that, right? I mean, if it
What
was
do you
just an
think?
in-kind grant,
Yeah.
cost us nothing, let's do it.
What do you think, Paul?
You guys okay?
As far as
Trying to get the
tree
grant.
grant? get a
Yeah, I
tree
think,
grant,
yeah, let's do it.
run
Why
that
not?
through.
Yeah, let's do
We
that.
don't have enough trees?
We don't have enough trees.
Can you ever have enough
Need
trees?
it on that right side.
Dale can.
So
I agree with Dale. I'm trying to sell my sister
All right, let's get this last one done and go home.
Sounds
I've got
great
it.
to me.
Dale does have a problem with this. All SESD boxes, they say maintain 10 or 15 feet clear space in front of them. They're planting stuff right up against them boxes.
Shh, Tree City USA.
There's a big sign right there
So
on it
those
that
are-
says,
those are
keep a clear
shrubs.
space, so SESD can come and pull them out.
Are
They
they
can.
going to?
Yeah, they could.
They could.
They could,
Trust
but-
me, if
but
you
they
go to
don't.
operate those things and those are in the way, I'd come to chainsaws and they're
You
gone.
sure would. You just love doing that.
I did that so many times.
I can see that.
I've got it.
Okay, I don't really want to hear all that.
Well,
Just
there's
take
a
them
big
out.
sign right there.
Okay.
Says it's got
All
it.
right,
Code
do we have anything
enforcement.
left?
Code enforcement.
We
This
need
is
a
a-
code enforcement officer first, don't
No,
Do I
we
have
need
enough
to,
energy?
we need to tighten the code up and come up with a real,
We don't need to, the state's gonna do it for us.
okay, what we need is a real thing so that if, before you hire someone, they know what their job is, right?
Yep.
They gotta be able to read and understand code.
No, but they need to have repercussions, like, first infraction is this, second, it needs to be so clear,
Okay, so
right?
let's talk about this for a minute.
Yes,
We
I
gotta
agree
we gotta
with
get real. Gotta get real. First of all, we don't even have a code enforcement officer right now. Nor have we had anybody apply for the one that we've offered, right? We haven't put a Facebook thing out to try to get a local resident that might be just thinking, oh, hey, maybe I'll just do that, right? I'm not really looking, but, so they're not down at the workforce. We're gonna try that, right? But let's say we got a code enforcement officer, right? And we got all these ordinances. And they call up and some resident complains and we rush out and start trying to do our thing. And
Well, they've got to fill out the official complaint form
they
now,
fill out the
right?
official complaint form and then we have to, give them notice and we did these dogs over here forever out, $550 a day violation. Residents are like, so?
It's a joke.
It's a joke. How do we collect?
Take them to court.
We don't
have the money for that. No, the reality of it is, they're gonna take it.
You put in there that you collect court costs and fees.
Who serves the, how do you do that? How do you get them to court?
So when I first got on the council, we went over this whole process, because they said we're gonna have, and we had all the forms, we had everything done. We had it set up like this would be first warning, right? This is your warning, this is the letter you get sent, this is so you have to have it, if you're gonna take them to court, you have to have it officially served. You can have a sheriff do that, or a constable, or anybody basically can serve them that's, just has to sign a paper.
Right.
You have to be 18 or older.
And these are just like legal Zoom forms?
Can they
Just
vote it
fill one out and
themselves?
deliver it?
We have all the forms already.
William's thinking about applying. Tell him a little bit more about this job.
Okay.
We have all the
You're gonna
forms
work,
already.
you're gonna do it?
Not much, maybe.
And then what happens? So then we say, oh, okay, great. So throw it in the trash.
Okay, so we have, like Trish was saying, we have to have a process, and I don't even remember what we had.
Dogs are still barking during all this.
Yep, we'd set up like the violations, right? We have to have our documentation. I talked to him about how we have to document certain events, right? And then you file your suit
And what?
in Utah County Justice Court.
And so then
Are
we
they
gotta send
really?
an attorney in to go in and be there, or?
We can have an attorney or not an attorney. It's small claims. You don't have to
It's
have
not,
an
but yeah,
attorney.
you can go
required.
yourself.
So how
I
backed
don't know,
up
I've
are
never
we?
been inside court.
Not backed up.
I have no idea how this works.
You can
Small
get in a
claims
couple
court's
weeks.
pretty easy. I've filled out the paperwork for
Okay.
small claims.
I mean, I'm looking at going, most cities, quite frankly, it's still the Wild West. They don't do anything beyond that. I mean, aside from, unless they've got a judge that's on their city payroll.
Finds people and they
Yeah,
have to pay.
but they've got a judge.
Yeah, so
So,
take Salem or
that's how it
Pace or
goes.
something, they send Mr. Policeman over.
Mr. Policeman
And
comes,
he's
gives them a
gonna
paper.
cite them, right? And here it is, your citation, and you better appear in court, right? And then they go to the court and they get the Salem judge there, right? It's different than going to the county guy that says, I'm so stinking busy, right, that I don't have time for you.
Yep.
Not
And it's
interested.
clearly
Sherry's
some-
not interested in helping us,
Why does it have to come to
because
that?
it's all civil, right?
Yeah,
Well,
but once
because
you,
it does.
yeah, but the thing is, once you file with the court, you get on their docket. And the court has to
And
hear
in the
it.
meantime, 6-8 months down the road, the dogs
No.
are still barking the whole way.
Small claims is a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's a lot
Well,
faster.
If
It's
you're the
not-
guy that's listening to the dog, that you wanna go out and put it out of its misery, and you can't, because it's not the right politically correct thing to do, you get to endure it night after night after night after night after night until you reach a breaking point. And then you're the one that gets escalated. You're not going to civil court, you're going to criminal court at that point. So the reality of it is,
my neighbor.
Are you scared?
I mean, I
That's
just,
just why you don't have a dog.
Everyone's backing away from you, Nelson.
no, but I mean, the reality of it is, it doesn't really solve the thing. The only place where I've actually seen anything where they've really been able to get any kind of traction is when you get the people who live within the
Settled?
no, it's homeowners associations, where you basically sign away all your rights when you move into it. You let them tell you what color your mailbox is, whether or not you can fly an American flag, or whatever it happens to be, and you just relinquish all of your rights, and you turn it over to a couple of old guys who are the ones that manage it,
Stop
and they
looking
tell
at
you
me.
how it
That's
is.
my dream, okay? Stop.
So,
I don't see, you know, I guess the thing that frustrates me is the fact that we even have to have this conversation.
You know what though?
You
Yeah,
know,
but you know what, we've had residents that
Right.
say, screw you,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it,
Right.
what are you gonna do about it?
We have it right now.
Nothing,
Yeah,
so I'm not
right now.
doing anything.
Right now.
right,
And that's what our residents do, so either we're gonna enforce the codes or we're not.
We
But if
owe
we're
it to
gonna
the
enforce
residents that
them,
we make
we
codes
need
to
to be
enforce them.
serious
I
and
don't
we
know
need to
how
take,
to make,
we
how
need to
to
take them to
enforce it.
court.
I don't know how to enforce it.
Well, we've gotta get an intimidating character.
well, I'll tell you how we
I
see
see one in
start.
this room.
Let me just
You're
interject
not-
something that's
you're
kind of.
not-
We do what Woodland Hills does.
I've been a landlord for 20 years.
I'm scared.
People that don't enforce things, they walk all over you all day, every day. Landlords that enforce things, amazingly, tenants pay their rent on time, they pay their late fees because you stand up for yourself.
Hey,
And so,
I'm ready to enforce. I'm happy to
And
enforce.
it's not that hard, and what she's saying is
Right.
true. I mean, I've been. in
I just
court,
need
I've
to,
got the
I just need
process.
to
You can
know
probably
how
sell the
legal.
debt to somebody who will go collect it for you.
That's true, you could
How
also
to
make
do
calls
it.
and do
There's
that.
options out there.
But it has to be effective. It
You
has
could
to
also use a
be,
collections agency, huh?
has to be,
Multiple
if
streams
you
of
don't
income.
do this,
Because
you're going to go
they
to
just
court
collect
and you're gonna
40%.
get a judgment against you.
And that's the thing, like,
50
we
bucks
set
a
this
day,
whole
you know,
process up,
Give away.
but then, nobody wanted to actually enforce it. Well, I don't wanna do that to the neighbor, these are residents of Elk Ridge, we don't wanna actually take them to court, we just wanna work with them, we wanna, you know.
But we don't,
But
it
if
doesn't
it-
always require that, right? Because you
Right.
can drive by and say, oh my goodness, that guy's got 700 chickens.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we're gonna do it, we have to be willing to do it.
I'm ready to do it.
Right,
Tell me the right way to do it.
I think we need
We've
to,
sent letters, we've done everything. The house across the street, we've racked up $5,000 worth of fines or whatever it is, and we're not getting any money out of it.
No, but that problem solved itself.
That solved itself. But
And-
there's other residents where
Yeah.
we're still doing this, and we've decided not to give them all this
but that's the
cozy
thing is,
feeling
Well,
that will.
we should collect the
The-
fines
the
on those,
reality of
right?
it is-
That which is, goes back to pay our code enforcement officer, and those fines levy.
Well,
And
this
when, as
particular
soon when,
incident, they're in jail, so they're not gonna have to worry about it, but.
Woodland Hills, for a while, hired our code enforcement officer to be a judge for their city, and he would go out, and he was doing code enforcement there too.
Yeah.
Our former guy, one of our former guys, and he'd come in and they'd do it, and they'd find people, and they collected, I mean, that's how they paid him.
I'm kinda
And
thinking maybe
it
we
was
should
all-
allow the person that collects it to take a certain percentage. That would really encourage
Well,
collections.
that's when,
I'm not against that.
No, when
You
you-
get 40%.
Yeah, not on money laundering
no,
there.
that's how
You
it
get
works when you
40%.
pay an agency to collect
That's what
it
I'm
for
saying, you get 40%,
That's
and
it.
who's gonna go out there? I'll get the money.
You make this sell, you collect yours.
Whether I'm hauling a TV off the property or not, I will give them money.
I got a question.
But no,
Well,
we could
okay.
hire out a judge to come in and sit once a month, Monday mornings from 8 to noon to hear the cases. We could do that if we wanted.
Can we have our own court within Elk Ridge?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
sure,
mhm,
yeah,
we
we
can.
can have our own municipal court.
Well,
Yeah,
then
we
let's
can.
do it.
We actually had talked about doing it
That's another
before,
option instead of having to go to Provo.
and it was,
And that to me, is a much better option.
Do we have to fill out as much paperwork then?
Oh, you still have to file, yeah.
Dang it.
I got a question for
But
Brittany.
he shows up here.
Our code enforcement officer, does he have the right to go on private property to check stuff
No.
without,
where's his search
without,
warrant?
where is it?
Unless it's right there in plain sight, you better have a search
I
warrant.
mean, like
Same
if
rules
he
apply.
went
He's gotta have
into
a-
somebody's backyard, he's gotta have,
Do you
cause
also think that if
somebody
we,
threatened our own.
If that same person's a fire marshal, they can, I'll just.
I like the way you think.
All right, so I just need to know I need help, we need help, make sure that we have the right steps in
Well-
place, because I want to enforce.
The problem is, you
guys pass all the ordinances, and then you basically say, okay, Mayor, now make it happen.
Well-
That's my role.
part of the problem is, as Deputy Rhodes somewhat, I mean, when we had the issue with the stock car guy, or whatever you wanna call him, down on the north end of town, and he was louder than all get out, there wasn't anything we could do. Nothing. I mean, and I could hear the guy at my house, and I live like over a mile away as a bird flies.
Is it crow flies?
No, bird.
Crow.
And you can hear,
Crows don't fly, they just caw.
That's
So,
insane.
you know, if we can address it in a manner that will actually bring resolution, fine. But if all we're gonna do is go around and kick the hornet's nest, I don't wanna even mess with it.
I do. I
You
think
want
we,
it?
I
No,
think
if
we
it's
owe
not
to the
gonna, if
residents.
it's not gonna do any good, if it's not gonna get rid of the problem, what's the point?
No, then
Why
we're
would you
gonna
not
get rid of
use
the problem.
codes?
That's what I'm saying, we need to get rid of the problem, and we've gotta let them know we have a backbone, because guess what? People will,
Oh, I
That's what I'm
know,
saying, as soon
I
as
know.
we start taking people to court, everybody's
it's
going,
done,
oh,
everyone's gonna start
you know what I
complying.
mean? When
Yeah,
Straight
you,
out the
know.
chute.
when you get that letter
No,
from
I'm
the
ready to
city,
take, I'm ready right now.
when you get that letter, you'll go, oh crap.
And I also think we need
I've
to
told Royce, I
prioritize.
said, we're gonna burn this one here real quick.
Well,
So let's give her a
so,
whirl.
you know, I
Do
mean,
it.
the reality of it is, we got this animal code here, and we're talking about stripping away the rights of people on 3rd-acre lots so we can accommodate a bunch of people that aren't even allowed to have animals other than a dog or a cat. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's where we're at. And I think that's part of your frustration is we got people with goats, we got people with chickens, we got people with ducks, we got llamas.
Well,
in
it's
places
just
where
that.
they're not. No, but I mean,
Now you've got, now
I
you've got
mean-
everybody building temporary, the shelters for their RVs right next to the property line, on the property line. Another
Or
one, right?
sheds on property lines.
Sheds on property, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
They're all over.
The neighbor just built one.
Well, and the problem, like Shay said, if we don't do,
Fighting.
what did you say, Shay? If we don't do anything about some of these, eventually we will have no way to, right?
well,
It builds on itself, yeah.
Like he said, like if we don't take
It's
care,
like the
like
camel
the shed,
getting
the
his nose
access
into the
to their
tent.
shed is on city property, and he said after a certain amount of time, we can't come and say, no, you can't drive on city property to get to it.
Do you know what forms to
We
fill out?
lose our rights.
To make it,
I know.
so that we can have them served and appear in court.
well, I know somebody that would know. And
Well, I
he
think
took
Brittany
the whole-
knows.
Well, Brittany
she's
knows,
sitting
but I
next
mean,
to
in
you.
terms of the judicial, or the court thing here within the city,
I like to rent a judge here, yeah.
He's all over that.
you know, and he's just
Because it's
irritated enough, he might be willing to do it now.
The promo.
They deal with the people that aren't complying.
Do we have a judge within the city,
We
We
don't,
have
you
somebody
just
who
hire
has
one.
done it before.
but lives within the city?
Oh, yeah. And let me tell you, he calls me about every 2 weeks to let me know what's wrong in the city.
And does he want to be the code
I
enforcement
mean,
officer?
we got like down here,
You don't, you can't
we
have
got,
your code
we got the
enforcement
Parkview
same as your
corner,
Yeah, we'll
okay.
have different.
where we were talking about the curbing and all that.
I'd
Well,
rather
they've got
have
weeds that
a
are
judge.
outside of our code. I mean, they should be down there cutting those weeds down.
It's true.
He called me about them today.
This guy should be the code enforcement officer.
He used to be. He carried a sidearm and he really got a lot of people worked up.
I'm liking this guy.
He even had
You
magnets
guys
stuck
aren't
on the
really
doors.
giving me any,
No,
you guys aren't giving me anything concrete. I
So
want to know
Look into the rent.
if we have the forms, because I'm ready tomorrow for us to
What
fill them
forms do
out.
we need?
We had the forms before. I went through and we drafted all the forms we
Do you
needed.
still have them that we could
And
get
we
them
got
again?
forms.
I'm sure I have them, and we had printed ones with the carbon paper on them.
So-
I mean,
So
We've
what
got
we're,
them all.
what we're
Let's
gonna
use
do is we're gonna follow David Church's advice when it comes to these types of issues. You go after the most egregious ones first, and you just keep working your way down the list. And you're gonna have people down below that are gonna see somebody that's worse, and they're gonna think they're actually worse, so they're gonna come into compliance. And so some of them down here are gonna just take care of it as we work through this list.
You know who I'm thinking about.
We take care of the squeakiest
My
wheels
neighbor
first.
with all the
I wanna know who it is.
Well, he's not the only one with massive tall weeds. And, you know,
I want to throw a match in.
No, but there's some real problems, I think.
I mean, there is.
Enough, but I'm frustrated that I don't know how to do this because it's that process is coming upon me to do.
well, I
So I
think,
sat down with like Spanish Fork City when we originally did all this, and we went through like all the codes, and so we could go do that again.
No,
No.
I'll tell you what I want. I'll tell you what I want.
I'm gonna send you,
I'll tell you what I want. I want help to do the first one.
and
Walk us through it.
I
Do I
think
know
if
this
they've
person
been
personally?
noticed.
Because if I don't, I will totally go with you.
Probably.
Now, I don't think that we should
Dang it.
co-cock somebody that has no idea they're not in compliance.
Oh, no, they
by
already
doing
know.
that. But if they know, and
They
they've
already
been notified, and they've been given apple, you know
They
what,
already know.
doggone it, throw the, flip them.
They already
okay, so this
Let's
is,
go
I
by
just
the ones
pulled
who
this
did
up,
it.
so enforcement of Oakland
Suckers.
City Code. So the first thing was
She did.
finding of nuisance form, right? This is what we fill out, the finding of nuisance form,
Have we
Check.
done that? Done.
okay?
Check,
We give them a voluntary correction agreement.
check,
They either comply or they don't comply, right?
check.
So then, if it's not compliance, there's two things. City can either abate the nuisance if it
Haven't done
complies,
that.
or we can issue an
That takes a
administrative citation.
Administration.
expands, yeah.
And it's- Okay,
Or we can grant an extension if there's due diligence or substantial progress and unforeseen circumstances.
okay.
This is what we came up with. Okay, so if they,
So they got that and they're still in violation.
okay, so then
We
we
get
have,
to that point, and that's where we get,
okay,
And they don't.
we're fine with up to that.
So any of them that meet that criteria, let's do it.
okay, so once we've issued the administrative citation, this is just kind of the flow chart, right? Either they comply and we're done, or not, non-compliance, then we had a fine incurred for each day the nuisance continues after the required completion date on the citation. And the fine does not
You've been
stop
doing
until
that?
enforcement officer approves the corrective
We
actions.
can do that.
We can do that.
The fines cannot be waived by the code enforcement officer. We had
Right.
put that in place.
We agree with that.
Okay,
Yep.
They're still there.
I can waive it.
okay, and then it is service. It has to be served personally, right? Or certified mail with return receipt.
Okay, we're good
Or you
at
have
that.
to post a copy of the citation on the property if you cannot personally serve them in Utah and you cannot find an address.
No, we're good with that. Check.
Are you ready to take the next step?
And,
That's where.
and
That's your next step?
on the court webpage has small claims. You just pull it up and fill it in.
But small claims is under a certain amount. What's the-
10,000.
And how much do you
Well,
have
actually,
right now?
they've raised it. It's 11,000 something right now.
Well, I
Because they
hope
just
that
raised
we're well
it.
below that threshold.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
Dang it.
That's a lot of days. Well, we might be getting close on some of that.
What's the infraction we're all speaking of?
I don't know.
Speaking of?
I don't need to know.
I don't know
Oh,
either.
I don't, we
I'm
don't
just-
need, no one needs to know. All we need to
This
know
was
is
kind
we're
of
There's a couple
kidding.
in this case. There's actually a couple.
This was kind of the flow chart that we
There's actually a couple in this case.
put together like years ago.
I love that, Brittany, that is good stuff.
And you
So
know,
did
and if
you
they
email
come in
that
and
to
make
Royce
the
and the
argument
mayor?
that they've got
No.
a neighbor that's not complying,
That's
You
just-
have it
you
already?
treat it just
Or
like
maybe
you
I
would
did-
somebody
you-
going down the
this is
freeway and
probably
they
when
pull the
I
speed
originally
over.
did this, right?
We did, like I said, we get up to that,
You just wanna know you have our
And then-
support to do all that, right? Before you start, and then we're like, well, I didn't.
I'm glad we had this discussion because guess what? Royce, are we ready to go on the small claims court site and file? We've done everything, right?
I think.
So, okay, and so for collections, because this is what we talked about with collections before. So liens, you can attach a lien to real property.
Who? Okay,
You have to file the judgment
okay.
that you get in the office of the county recorder in the county in which the debtor's real property is located.
Okay, that's easy.
Okay? So, and you can file in every county in which they have property, you can attach the judgment to. You also have to file with the county recorder a judgment information statement, which basically, you fill out the abstract of judgment form, and then you file that with the recorder. That's what that is. And it's good for up to 8 years.
Okay,
Then you have to, once the 8 years hits, you have to file a new small claims case based upon failure to pay the judgment. So you don't reissue all the stuff. You just have to
basically
failure to pay the
extension.
judgment. Yeah, you don't argue the cause of the fines again or anything. You only show that they never paid the judgment.
Who has to argue the cause of the fines?
Well, no,
In
so
small claims court.
in small claims court, anybody can do it.
We can send you or Nelson?
Yeah, anybody can go. Anybody can go and argue it. Royce could go, our code
Royce is
enforcement
not-
officer.
That's what we want to be
could go.
doing, isn't it, Royce?
We gotta send
But
a
no,
meeting.
when
Let's
we
not
get a
break
code enforcement officer,
Yeah, do it.
really, we would want the code enforcement officer to
Yeah,
be
you
the
do.
one to go to
If
court.
it's escalated to the point that
Right?
it's going to court, we ought to have the guy that's out issuing the citations.
Yeah.
Well,
Be
that's
the guy
what,
that
but
goes-
here's-
that's what I said, they
question.
would need to be there for sure, but we could go walk them through the
Yeah.
first, you know what I
Okay, but
mean?
here's a question. So say someone has an RV pad and
Sounds so fun.
it's on someone else's I don't know, whatever it is, okay? And we go through all this and we fine them up and then they owe $10,000. And then we put a lien on their house. But nothing happens.
Well, no, something will happen.
How?
You can do a
Because
garnishment
the
too.
word will get out, and the next person that thinks about doing that same thing's like,
Well, what do we eventually do?
Boy.
Nothing to them?
I don't want a lien on my house, period. I don't care if,
You can perfect the lien, I mean, you just,
But
Or
then
some-
what if they don't, okay, so but we'll say there's concrete poured, right? What if they don't jackhammer it up or whatever?
if
Do we
they're-
just
if-
keep doing
if
it
there's
again,
a
round
primary
two?
lender, if they have a mortgage, the bank will want that cleared up, like, right?
yeah.
Well, and you can garnish wages too.
Yeah, they can actually call the
A
loan.
lot of us on our.
I'm just trying to figure out, so then do you start over again if they do nothing?
You can garnish up to 25%
What if
of
they're
their
self-employed?
paycheck.
What if they're self-employed and they choose not to pay the
Then
garnishment?
you can attach it to their bank.
I'm
And you can
just-
just
It's-
pull
you-
from their bank.
I'm not worried about getting to that point,
I-
because
There's ways to collect.
90% or 99 probably,
Yeah, you're
50% are
right.
gonna be like,
99
whoa,
you're right.
this has gone on too far, I'm I'm just gonna
Fall
take
out,
care
fall
of
out,
this.
I'm going to court, I'm going to court.
I wanna take care of it.
Yeah.
But we get to these points, right, where we've served and we've worked with them and they're still not coming into compliance. We don't really have the funds to go in and do the abatement on it, right? I guess that's the word, right?
Right, take care of the
To
problem
take care of the
themselves,
problem
pay
and
for
then,
them.
and then charge them, right? We don't have that. We just wanna take it the next step through the court system and say, because most of the time, I think that's enough to get people to comply.
That's true.
That's
Would
getting
be for
pretty
me.
serious at that
Actually,
point in
the
time
first
if you're
note on
gonna go
my
see a
door.
judge,
Would be for me.
right? If you're gonna go actually see this judge, or if you don't show up, then I guess they can put a
You
warrant out for you
automatically,
or something, right?
yeah, lose if you don't show up.
That is the next step I wanna take. And I don't wanna put anybody, I mean, I just want them to stop the problem,
Yeah.
right?
I just wanna know why.
What do you think, Royce?
Warnings, they don't do anything.
I agree with you.
Would you? I'd be like, oh, I'll fix it.
And we're not, like I always said, I'm not interested in becoming just driving around finding stuff, right? Because
Well, if
I
we give them
you could
40% of what
find
they
stuff
collect.
you can find stuff in our city really
Jared's
easy.
so bad.
Really easy, and I'm not interested in doing that. But when a valid complaint comes in and we've got to address
Can
it,
you
I
imagine
think
how compliance
we are
works?
obligated
Well, it's
to.
like paying the cop for the speeding ticket.
It is
Yeah, it was in
exactly
Mexico, we
like
got pulled
that.
over for running a red light, cost us $30 US dollars.
And you're going 31 and a 30,
We ran a red light.
where's $500? Well, that's
Just gave him
fine.
some pesos.
That's not.
Can we go home?
I want
I think we're taking it to the
it.
next step.
I'll make a motion to we adjourn.
We don't
You don't
have
have
to
to,
make a
you
motion.
just
This
want-
Oh,
is
I,
a
you know, I just did, for the record.
Thanks, everyone. What a lively night. I knew this was gonna be a lively night.